Hi, everyone. Welcome to Reaction Shots for August. We're talking indies, we're talking Green Knight, we're talking Pig, and we have a special guest. I'm Isla, that's Huber. But our special guest...
Hi, I'm Alisha Grauso. I am the features editor for Screen Rant, and I also am the editorial lead for Atom Tickets. So
Sick.
Nice. Thank you for joining us.
Screen Rant, a lot of good Walking Dead articles on Screen Rant. That's
Yes.
my main avenue
that's your
into
main.
Screen Rant.
That's your like fandom.
That's
your main.
Like when I find myself on Screen Rant, it's usually about Walking Dead.
Is this a bad time to
And
admit
Marvel.
I've literally never once watched a Walking Dead episode, but there was a period of time that I could have told you every single thing that happened in the show because I edited so many Walking Dead articles
Nice.
between this outlet and my last outlet. Yeah.
Nice.
I watched
It's always so
seasons
good.
1 and 2 and then hard quit.
That was the one where they were on the farm, right? Like I just remember
Season
everybody
2
being
farm.
like, they were at Herschel's farm for
It was
72
so
years.
For 3
bad.
years, dude.
And then that's when like half the fan base dropped off.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
See, I
That's
told you I
bad.
knew everything.
Yeah.
I still know
Yeah.
everything after the show.
It's a big beat.
Just
Never
yeah.
even seen it. But before we get into the theme, we do a little thing where we just say, what have you liked lately? Or what have you seen? I guess we should call it, what have you seen lately? Because sometimes we talk about shit we hated too. Huber, I usually make Huber go first. You seen it? You've seen a lot lately.
Yeah, the best thing I've watched, the best thing I think I've seen this year, honestly, it's close to my heart. They did a special episode, but it's a movie. So it's like a special event. Kingdom, the Korean zombie show.
Yes.
Is so incredible. I cannot hype it up enough. There's only 12 episodes. You have no excuse to not watch it, everyone out there. It's an easy recommendation. Very short. But it's been a while since it's been on, and season 3 is still not really, who knows what the deal is. It hasn't been officially renewed or canceled, so we're still waiting. But in the meantime, we got a spin-off, not a spin-off, but like this other story. I don't want to tell you exactly what that story is, but basically it's about this character that we had briefly seen in the...
It's a guy den.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah, sure. So it's basically about this character, Ashen, and... It's the best. I can't really talk about it without spoiling it, but it's just a great window into the series from a place we hadn't seen before. Really good action, really high stakes, and just an incredible character. I love her. She's awesome.
Have you seen Alice in Borderland?
No, you told me about it though.
Did you see
I
it?
have not, but it's like it's like next on my list. I have so many things because that's the like true irony of being a like film critic and an entertainment editor is that everyone's like, oh, you must watch everything. I'm like,
Yeah.
no,
There's too
Yeah.
much.
I
There's no
don't
time for anything.
because I have to literally like I can't devote my time to sitting down and watching like seasons of something because I have to cover everything. So I'll watch
Yeah.
a couple episodes here, a
Yeah.
couple episodes there. Oh, that's only 6 episodes.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
cool. I can
Yeah.
knock that out in a night. Like I can watch that one. How many seasons? Oh, 3 seasons in? Mm-mm.
Yeah.
No, that's too
Yeah.
much a commitment right now.
Totally.
Same with
So-
games and stuff. Because like around here we mostly cover games. This
Yeah.
is just our
Yeah.
spin-off thing.
Yeah, and I'm a big. I kind of go back and forth with video games. Like I'm like hot and cold, and my problem is that I really love the immersive games. Like I love like the Dragon Age series is like my
yeah.
like favorite of all time. So I like the huge like
100
open
hours.
world. Yeah, and my brain is like, you have shit to do. Like
Yeah.
you can't sit and take your entire day off playing video games, and then like
I get that too.
20-year-old, the part of me that's still 20 years old is like, why not? I'm like, because you're an adult with bills to pay and your cats need to be fed. And I'm like, fine. So,
Get
yeah.
the Doc Brown like self-feeding thing. Never works.
Should just
Yeah.
train them to feed themselves.
Yeah. My friend John trained his cat to use the toilet.
Yes. So I was going to
crazy.
do that because I adopted 2 kittens during like lockdown the first few months. You can do it. And,
I don't know if they flush, but they use the
because they
toilet.
flush in a movie, right? Meet the Parents or something.
I
hate that
have a friend of a friend who taught her cat how to flush. No joke. You
Wow.
can train them with treats.
I suppose, yeah.
So,
Positive reinforcement works better than negative
Yes.
reinforcement.
And I was going to do that until my vet pointed out, like, you can't, like, see if, like, they're ill or, like, anything is going on. There's changes. Like, oh, that's a good, I was like, that's a good call. Like, so I didn't. But,
Gotta look
and
at
then
that
also
poop.
I realized, I'm like, would you really have the patience to train? And I was like, no. Like I was like, oh, that sounds awesome. I'll totally do that. And then the logical voice was like, be honest, you have ADHD. You get bored of things in like 15 minutes. Would you really have the patience to train them for like 2 months? And I was like,
I don't know how you train anybody. Anyway, we are way off topic.
Yeah.
What else have you seen lately, Huber?
Suicide Squad and
I
Green
do that
Knight,
a
I'm
lot.
sure we're going to talk about
Well, yeah.
later.
Well, we can talk about the Suicide Squad. That was on mine too.
Saw it twice. Saw it in home and in the IMAX.
The
Nice.
Suicide
What up?
Squad.
Yes.
I rather enjoyed it.
I loved it.
The bar was incredibly low.
Of course.
I really liked it. I really liked it. I really love James Gunn. But I will say I don't quite understand the people that are like, it's the best superhero movie ever, or like comic book
Best
movie ever.
DC
I'm like,
movie.
Among the
is
best,
it though? I'm like, that's not even James Gunn's best like
Right.
comic book
No,
movie.
right, yeah.
So I was
definitely
like,
the best DC movie since The Dark Knight, I guess.
Yeah, I'm just talking about the DCEU.
DCEU.
I really think it's the best.
It's
I
probably
like
the best DCEU.
I like Man of Steel. I like Zack Snyder's Justice League. I liked Aquaman. Like
I never saw Aquaman.
Aquaman
love
is like
the only one I never
I
saw.
loved it.
get drunk or high
Out of
before you watch
control.
Aquaman.
Out of control.
Because you watch
10 out of 10 unhinged
like
movie.
I watched it and I was like,
It seemed nuts.
the entire
Loved it.
time I watched it, I was like, this is not a good movie, but I'm enjoying the shit out of
Michael
myself
Shannon
right
in
now.
it?
And
no, it's
everything,
Patrick Wilson.
Oh.
Yeah,
like
maybe Michael
it's the
Shannon.
kind of movie
No,
where
that's
you
Man of Steel.
see
Oh yeah, right.
like an octopus playing the bongo drums and you're like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Like sure.
Sure.
It was
like
dope.
why not?
That
Loved
happens
it.
in the Little Mermaid ride at Disneyland also.
yeah, but that was an Aquaman. Like everything is in this
Yeah.
movie, and you're just like, wow, James Wan somehow stuffed like Lovecraftian Cthulhu mythology with like octopuses playing bongo drums.
They were
Okay.
gonna do that spin-off, but
Yeah,
they
the trench.
scrapped it.
Yeah,
It's a bummer.
yeah.
You'd really like it, Isla. It's,
Yeah?
Yeah, it's fun.
All right, I'll have to watch
It's
it.
definitely entertaining. Like you're
sure it's on
never.
HBO
It's not
Max.
a boring movie. Like that's what I hate. Is like
Long
I
as
don't
shit.
like when a movie is like bad or just like kind of lazy, but also boring.
Yeah.
Like I don't need you to be a good movie. Just entertain me.
Right.
Like and
Right.
it was definitely entertaining.
Yeah. Like the Suicide Squad I thought was entertaining enough, and I actually cared about the characters, which I don't think has happened in
Yeah.
any DC movie.
I'm still mad about one of the deaths. Like ooh.
Joel Kinnaman's one of my all-time favorite actors since Snabbakash, this Swedish one, and The Killing obviously is one of my favorite shows
Joel
of all time.
Kinnaman.
Love him to death.
Sorry, Sophia.
Yeah.
So I just
trying to learn
interviewed
Norwegian.
him a couple months back for a small indie movie that my friend actually wrote called The Secrets We Keep.
Oh, nice.
And this is when we were still doing like interviews like on camera,
Yeah.
which we kind of still are. We're doing virtual junkets, and he was wearing a giant like bucket like fisherman's cap. And drinking from the biggest glass like of red wine I've ever seen. Like it wasn't even like a normal. It was like this.
So jolly.
big. And he was just like, I was just like, wow, this is the life I want to live.
Living the
like,
dream.
I was like, this is the energy
Living the
I
dream.
need in my
I like
life.
him, yeah.
Yeah.
Love him. And Idris Elba is like one of my, that,
Oh,
like
yeah.
Idris
Elba's
Elba
so
in that
good,
movie is like top 3 superhero performances now. Like obsessed.
He's fantastic. I love
He's
him.
just good in
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, he's
Like,
just,
like,
so good.
That's the reason I do say it's one of the best ever is because those two guys in that I loved. And John Cena was hilarious.
And David
Johnson
Dastmalchian.
He was
I
amazing.
love him.
Which
Yeah.
one is he?
Polka Dot Man.
Oh yeah,
he's
I
incredible.
never
But
knew his
the
name,
line-
but I always love that guy.
David Dastmalchian, the line where he's like, we're all gonna die. He's like, God, I hope so. I was just like, he's my favorite. That's it. I saw that in the trailer and I was
Ratcatcher.
like, that's it.
Oh, Ratcatcher, dude.
It was incredible.
Such a hoodie.
I loved it.
Such vibes.
Yeah, it was
King
the
Shark, dude. The whole
King
time
Shark.
I was like, I swear to God, if you hurt
If
King
you
Shark.
hurt this cupcake,
Yeah, I love King Shark.
James Gunn, we know Rooker's dying. He always dies in your movies, but we'll come for you,
Yeah.
King Shark.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
The
died.
King Shark kill, I'm not going to say which one, but in the IMAX,
Oh yeah, I know the one.
I
you
stood
mean.
up. I was sitting in the very back, so I didn't
I was
disrupt.
like,
It's like,
I
fucking
didn't
what?
disrupt anyone. I was in the very last row.
It's like Huber, you've become a monster. on
Like
the film.
Leo meme
Yeah.
when it happened. Yep.
I mean, it looks like, if I'm
Yeah.
thinking of the right one, it looks
Yeah.
like a still out of a comic. It
Yeah.
looked so good.
Yeah.
The lightning behind him. Ugh.
And then lastly was Demon Slayer. Not going to spoil that anime.
Oh, the
I'm on
movie or
the show. I'm on the final episode. I'm gonna watch that tonight. Finish that off, and it's immediately one of my favorite animes of all time. I adore it.
Have you seen the Golden Age arc of Berserk?
Of course, I would put Demon Slayer in that top echelon.
Really?
I don't see enough anime to really
Yeah.
boom, 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 boom. You know, I see all the. It's like for me, it's just you're either a great or you're just another anime. So I think this is one of the greats. I truly do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good.
There's a lot of derivative anime.
I would,
Very
yeah,
true.
yeah. I'm
Yeah.
very selective with what I commit to. This was only 26 episodes and a movie, which I heard the movie is like the best.
Only 26
Yeah.
episodes.
It's only the equivalent of two
skip-
mid scenes in one movie.
Yeah, you skip the intros and the credits. We're talking 19 minutes
That's
a
true.
pop.
That's
It's
true.
so
Anime
fast.
They're all
Short.
short. Yeah.
So fast.
Same as Cowboy Bebop, 26 in a movie.
But what I've done with this, because I'm enjoying it so much, is one episode at a time.
My God, the discipline.
I do it right before I go to sleep. I watch one episode of Demon Slayer. It's amazing.
That's a good way of doing it. But yeah, I don't know if I'd be that disciplined.
Yeah, because I like feel the episode more. I'm just all about
I do stuff like that when I eat.
yeah.
Like I'll watch an episode of a 30-minute while I'm eating.
And like you find yourself living in that space for longer. It's like if you binge anime, it's like okay, they're there, they do it, they're leaving, they're doing this. But if I watch like one at a time, it's like okay, I can like absorb this place and absorb this moment.
I'm like that with TV shows and books where if I'm really enjoying something, I have a really hard time like when I know I'm at the last episode or
Yeah.
like the final few
Oh,
chapters,
yeah.
like
Yes.
I'll walk
You want to
away
live
Yeah.
in it?
and will not
Yeah.
finish it
Yeah.
for ages because I'm like, but then it'll be over. And then I'm like, just finish it. Like, so it's taken me a long time to go back and like watch certain things or I'll get screeners for something and I'll
Nice.
watch like the first few episodes. I'm like, oh, damn, I'm enjoying this.
Yeah.
No, I can't watch
kind
the
of
rest.
a curse when you like something, right? I felt like that with Dark, the German
Nice,
time
yeah.
travel show. Like when I finally finished it, I felt like I was missing my friends. You
That's
know?
the
I was
worst
like- I was
feeling.
like, "Ugh."
And then you're trying to just find something to replace it,
Yeah.
and nothing sounds good.
Chasing
Yeah.
that dragon,
Ugh.
man. Alicia, what have you seen or liked
Back on
lately?
track. I was genuinely like I feel like this past year because again I screen a lot of stuff. I have to. I mean that's my job, and especially with TV, I feel like so many things this year I've watched and I've just been like, this has no idea what it wants to be, or like this would be so much better, but the writing's just messy, or like it's just not coming together. And I think COVID screwed up a lot of that too, because you
Yeah.
could see the seams in certain shows. Like as
Yeah.
much as I really enjoyed Falcon and Winter Soldier, you
Yeah.
could see the COVID seams. in
Yeah,
it. Like
totally.
you could see we're like,
Absolutely.
oh, episode 5 was 110% supposed to come after episode 1, like
Yeah.
because
Oh, yeah.
those storylines are different, and you can tell this was all rewritten.
The editing, even inside episodes,
Yeah.
is like bonkers. in that
Exactly.
shit. That is, I didn't like that
So
show.
I didn't really like it.
I appreciated its parts, but as a whole, I think it didn't come
Yeah.
together.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. For
when I
sure.
walk into something that I'm just not really like expecting much out of it, and I'm pleasantly surprised, it's been all the more like wonderful. And I felt like that about Free Guy.
Oh, yeah.
Nice. That's what everyone's
Because
saying
the,
now.
Yeah, people
the
are saying it's
trailers, the
good.
marketing
Yeah.
is not doing it justice, because the marketing, it's using the same footage over and over and over again,
Right.
which I get it. I understand why. But it's a lot funnier because it's like using almost the dumbest jokes from the movie, but it's a lot funnier. A lot of the jokes, like the same lines are in the movie, but it's a slightly different delivery in the actual theatrical cut. And it's a little bit more edgy than I thought. Like they drop the F-bomb. There's a couple jokes that are like the kind of jokes like adults will get, and kids will be like, what does he mean? And adults like,
wow.
don't worry about it, you know.
Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan
Exactly.
Reynolds.
And it's surprisingly
Is it
heartfelt.
PG-13?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's surprisingly heartfelt. Like I really, because a lot of people are like, "Oh, it's Ryan Reynolds doing his shtick again," and I'm like, "No, I'm telling you, he's not like snarky funny. Like he is genuinely sincere and like
Love it.
this just like wide-eyed like cheerful guy, and you root for every single one of these characters by the end of the movie. And honest to God, it's probably one of my top 3 favorite movies I've seen this year.
Wow.
Like
Sick.
it's just so much.
I might have to get over myself
Yeah.
and watch it. I had a bone to pick with this movie because we had a show called Seedlings, which we pitched around. Like we pitched to Disney, Netflix, everybody. And it was around the time when they must have been writing this.
Yeah.
And like literal lines from the trailer are in our show.
Yeah.
And so, I'm sure it was just, parallel thinking, total
Yeah.
coincidence, I'm sure. But like when I first saw the trailer and the first line of the trailer is like almost identical to the first line of
Yeah.
our show,
Yeah.
I was just like,
yeah.
because it's about like people coming aware of being inside a video game, and I was
Yeah.
just like, what the fuck?
It can be tough. Like I've had friends that it's happened to where they've been like, so, like,
Yeah.
like
They
or
beat me
they've
to it.
announced some TV shows in development. Like, well, oh, good, we were just about to pitch this to our manager tomorrow, you know? And so, but it's
happened with Firefly too. I was writing a sci-fi western with Chinese influence, and then Firefly happened, and I was like, well, fuck that then.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Well, but yeah, it's really good, and it's a lot smarter. I think that's part of it, is the marketing is making it look, it's kind of dumbing it down. It's a lot smarter
Trailers.
than I thought it was going to be, because it integrates the real world in a really smart way. Like you can tell the movies that are about like being inside a video game or whatever, when the people writing it and directing it don't really understand video games.
Right.
Like it kind of becomes a gamer cliche, but they actually, like, you know, that they not only know video games, but also like the development process, and they actually know like what gamers people care about, and it has 2 different cameos that I am shocked they kept under wraps.
I know about one of them.
I know
now.
one of them. I think
One,
I know one of them.
one is almost like a really small minor role. Like he's in 2 extended scenes, and
I know both of them,
hilarious.
actually.
Like the second one is hilarious.
I know
Like the
both.
second scene, and then the next one it's just like a brief, like literally like a split-second cameo.
Oh, funny.
But it got my whole audience, or like my whole theater, laughing. So I really enjoyed that.
What is that word? I don't. Theater? What is?
Theater?
That's actually,
yeah.
this movie like depresses the shit out of me, because it's the first time I've thought like really actively for a summer blockbuster.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm just gonna wait till home.
Yeah.
And then when I thought it, I was like, oh my God, I'm being changed by the system and by the Netflix, digital, home viewing, streaming. Like I'm in it now. It's engulfed me.
Like
You know?
Dune
Dune
I'm
is
going to the
IMAX.
theater. I'm
That's
going
why I
to the
did
theater for
Suicide
Dune.
Squad.
Oh.
Because Suicide Squad was filmed in IMAX, the entire
Oh,
movie.
I didn't know that.
I would say other things I really like. Loki. Like I loved
yeah.
Loki.
I thought it kind of fumbled the ending slightly, but
A little
liked
bit.
it on the
I didn't
whole.
love the finale, but I'm like, okay, I get it. Some other things I've really liked. This one's kind of older. I mean, it came out like last year, or maybe this year. I don't remember. Time has no
is-
meaning.
yeah.
Time is-
Time's
Shadow
a
and
flat
Bone.
circle.
Netflix Shadow and Bone series.
I haven't seen it.
I love those books. Like those are some of my
wife
favorite
loves those
books.
Loves it.
And I
She was pissed though, because they like combined the
Oh, see, I love that. I think
she
they
was so pissed about
I
that.
think they would have had to,
Yeah,
because
she's like, oh, they did just this so they could have like cool action stuff and all this other stuff.
Well,
that was
quite
Yeah.
frankly, though, like
Yeah.
Lee Bardugo has gone back and said, if I had to do like this was
Yeah.
so it's Shadow and Bone is the series, and there's the Grisha trilogy, which the first book is Shadow and Bone, and then there's this duology that's in the same world that starts with, but it's like unrelated characters.
yeah, and they all
And so they basically took the first book story and the characters from those 2 books and put them together.
Oh.
Which I thought was really smart, because quite frankly, I hate to say it, but like she's just boring as a main character. and Lee Bardugo, the author, has said, this was the first book I ever wrote. I would do some things very differently if I had to go back and reread. And it's like, and I went back and reread the trilogy afterwards. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot. I remember this.
Well,
I remember
that's
this now.
like His Dark Materials has the show has stuff in it that's not in the original trilogy, but is in the second trilogy that's coming out right
Yeah.
now, the like prequel trilogy.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
So, but I thought they did a really good job with Shadow and Bone. I thought the casting was spot on. It was so good, and just really good chemistry with the cast. So that's a little older, but I really like that one.
Are they doing another season of that?
Yeah, it got announced
Of
a couple
Shadow and
months
Bone?
ago.
Cool.
And then
My girlfriend, I was telling her I was watching *Halt and Catch Fire*, but then she was like sick or something, but she was like, well, I want to watch that to support her, or whatever, like have something in common. But she forgot which show I was watching and started watching Shadow and Bone, and she was like, because I had told her a little
Like,
bit
this does
about like
not
Lee
seem
Pace
like-
and like
yeah.
about making computers, and she was just like, what the fuck? Like, what is this? She watched like 3 episodes,
You're like-
and then finally was like, Isla, what are you talking about?
and you're like, that's not the same show.
So funny.
I also
not
have to-
seen that show.
I also have to say though, just on a purely aesthetic level, Ben Barnes in like just black
Beautiful
and a cloak, like I'm just like, oh, I'm in. Like I don't need. There doesn't need. Like I watch it for
That's
the
what
plot.
my friends
you
are
know?
saying.
Fuck Billy Russo
like,
though.
It's like that meme. Like I watch it for the plot, and then the plot is just a picture of him. Like
Right,
plot.
right.
And then I also screened Shang Chi last night. So.
Oh shit!
Jealous.
Probably if you start talking about that, you'll get sniped from the Disney
no spoilers.
satellites.
No spoilers. I will just say what I said in my reaction is that it's not a perfect movie. There's some weaker parts.
Few are.
But
Paddington 2.
No Country.
I
No
personally
Country for Old Men.
I personally think the action is the best that Marvel
saw
has
that.
ever choreographed.
Oh,
like
nice.
it's
Better be.
beautiful.
I mean,
It's
yeah, I should
beautiful.
hope
And
so.
it's-
Yeah, bare
there
minimum.
are some scenes that are just like stunningly beautiful.
Oh, wow.
Like,
So sick.
Shit,
it's
do I have to
just-
see this one in the theater?
It's just
Yep,
really fun
absolutely.
to see the whole cast throw down too, because like
They're not
the
an
whole
experiment.
cast is really
Well, yes.
Okay,
What
see,
do you
the
make
thing
about
is-
all this?
The thing is, though, I disagree with that because I know Simu Liu got really angry about that. He wasn't talking about Bob Chapek wasn't talking about the movie itself being an experiment. He was talking about the 45-day release window being an experiment.
But isn't that the
And it was taken out of context
Yeah.
and twisted and then ran with it, like some sites ran with
I
it
definitely
being
had
like
heard,
CEO,
like, yeah.
new
Yeah.
Disney CEO says like,
Asian people are an
Yeah,
experiment.
Shang-Chi's
It's
an
like,
experiment. And then of course, like the lead actor, he gets upset. And then I was just like, but that's clearly not what he meant. It's really disingenuous and unprofessional to like twist it. Anyway, I
Context
really enjoyed
doesn't
it.
exist anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
no
really,
nuance. No nuance.
We are post-reality
I
now.
really enjoyed it, and and God bless the rest of the Marvel actors because some of them do a really good job, but it's like kind of to varying degrees. Like Sebastian Stan, like he does all his own knife tricks in like The Winter Soldier. But
not
this movie,
sure how good of an actor he is.
this movie though, like every single person can actually fight. Like
Yeah.
they all have, or at least most of them that are the main actors, they all have like extensive martial arts training, so they can really get into the fight choreography. Where like in some Marvel movies, like the quick cuts and edits and
my
stuff
God, yeah.
because
Oh,
they can't
yeah.
actually convincingly throw a
You can
punch.
sniff out editing covering up bad
Yeah.
choreography.
The fact that there was no backlash at how bad the Loki fight
Loki
scenes
fight
were
scenes were
blew me
pretty
away.
bad.
Everyone like on this train of like it's the best ever. It's like, dude,
Which is weird
you
because
can't just gloss over how bad those action
is,
scenes
I'm
were. They
trying
were
to-
the worst ever
But I'm
in an
trying to-
MCU.
I wouldn't say ever. I mean,
think-
Captain Marvel's pretty bad.
I think straight
Captain
up.
Marvel,
I think
yeah.
straight up when they in episode 5 at the end, that is the worst action piece.
That was bad.
That
ever.
was really
you could
ever.
see you could see
Ever.
punches missing. And the
Oh,
thing
yeah.
that's weird is
Worst
because
ever.
Tom Hiddleston is a really good stage combatant.
Mm-hmm.
Like he has a ton of stage combat. So I'm like, where did this go wrong? Like
They shot
which-
it poorly.
It-
I,
yeah,
I
it was-
think they
it was
shot
shot
it with
poorly,
weird
yeah.
coverage, and it was like,
Yeah.
or they like
It triggers me.
like the space, like I don't know, or COVID, like they had to fake something. It smelled of like they had to shoot it too wide, or like half those people
Yeah.
weren't actually there.
Yeah.
There was something up.
Yeah.
I'm giving a lot of passes. I've given a lot of passes to shows this year and probably
Yeah.
will for like the next year because I'm
We
like,
lost a
there's
year.
so much that
Of course.
like it's kind of insane how many fans and audiences will watch a show or movie and not realize how much was changed because
yeah.
of COVID or
Oh,
how
yeah.
much had to be redone at the last minute or how these two actors in the scene were not actually shooting together. Like, so it's kind of insane.
Yeah, miles apart, days
Yeah.
apart. Like
Yeah.
Any other ones?
Man, I'm like so brain dead right now. No, I mean I've listed
fine.
like 3 or 4 things. So
Okay.
I think I'm
Some
good.
good ones.
I always write mine down because we get in here and then I forget them. But
No, it's free.
I just finished White Lotus, the White
Oh,
Lotus.
okay. So that's on my list too. Like my entire timeline was nothing but the finale the other night, and I'm like, oh, I gotta watch this damn
I hope
show,
you didn't
don't
get
I?
spoiled, but like, I'll just say it's a pretty smart, pretty scathing indictment of colonialism. I thought
I'm
was,
in.
Yeah, I thought it was like the way it starts and the way you think it's gonna go is just like kind of a pretty dry, dark comedy, right? It's saying something. It's got teeth, and I don't know. I liked it, and then I just kind of binged What We Do in the Shadows seasons 1 and 2, and I really like. It's
Yeah.
so funny.
That is an easy binge because those are short episodes.
Absolutely.
And that's easy.
Oh, I started that Reservation Dogs.
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah,
I did
how-
too.
yeah, really good.
One of Taika
I've watched
Waititi's like
the
3,000
first 2
projects.
Yeah,
It
it's good.
might surprise people to know that Taika is behind it because it's not really funny. I really appreciate the first episode. It's really, really slow. It's like a lot of like shoegazy, not shoegazy, but it's like a lot of just like sitting around and talking. And the kids most of them aren't like really like experienced actors, which is good because it lends it like
Yeah.
authenticity. But if people are expecting like zany, like Taika, like humor, it's not that. It's there is one scene that was pure Taika, the dream sequence. So I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
Taika, like that was like pure Taika. But the rest of it, it's a lot more like it feels almost like an indie like 90s like early 2000 kind
Feels
of
like
yeah.
what the hell is that movie with the guy standing on the roof on the cover?
A serious man.
Yeah, it feels like a serious man almost sometimes. Just the pace and the tone.
Really?
Of just like
Like apocalyptic biblical fable by
No.
the Coen brothers.
it's
Like,
like
I'm like, that's a bold
Yeah,
reach. I'm like,
yeah.
I don't know if I classify it
Sounds
like
like
that.
Ghost World or
Yeah.
something.
it's dude, the vibes are weird.
Yeah, it's
The
real.
vibes are
it's,
freaking weird.
Well, I mean, that's the other side of Taika that people forget about, I
Yeah.
think, is like, if you've seen Hunt for the Wilder People and Jojo Rabbit and stuff, it's like, he's funny and zany and crazy, but he's also like concerned about small things and he has a lot of heart, you know? And I think, yeah, that side gets forgotten, maybe. I also saw Quiet Place 2, which I thought was cool. I don't know. It
I
didn't
could
like blow
spin
my
on-
mind, but I liked it.
I thought the first one was better, but I thought this one was it was good. Like it was
Yeah.
solid.
Yeah.
Did a really good job of setting up the creatures in the universe. Because I did not like the creatures in the first one, even though I think it's a better movie.
Yeah.
I really liked them in the sequel.
You have to work pretty damn hard to make CG creatures
Yeah. Like they were just fine in the
intriguing
first
or
one.
scary or interesting in any way.
They're fine.
They were done better in the second one for sure.
At least we're getting to a point in Hollywood where CG creatures they're starting to get a little varied in their design because for
Yeah.
the longest time it was like any CG creature just looked like a knockoff of one of the cave trolls, like a reskin
Yeah.
version of a cave troll from Lord of the Rings.
Well,
Because
they're
it was
getting
all the same like VFX houses, or they were
Right.
just all like reskinning the same thing over and over and over again.
They're getting the weight and the gamma better now because
Yeah.
like in Quiet
Yeah.
Place 2 they look a little more like they should actually be there.
Sure.
And the weight that they have and like bumping into cars and stuff like
Yeah.
it feels really
Yeah.
good.
Sorry, Sterling Harjo is the other. He's the main creator of Reservation Dogs. I can remember.
Yeah, I remembered it was two names on the billboard.
But see, I feel that way about. That's the one issue I have. Like Spider-Man is my all-time favorite superhero. I love all this, like pretty much all the Spider-Man movies. But the one thing that always drives me nuts is how intangible Spider-Man always feels when he's in
Yeah.
his costume because he's fully CGI
yeah.
and like he just doesn't feel tangible.
Yeah.
Like you can tell
Very
he's
true.
CGI on screen, and that's the one thing that always
Even in Tom
bugs
Holland
me.
ones, yeah, he kind of feels light.
On his feet.
Spider-Verse is like so good though. I know you haven't seen Pig. Have you seen Pig?
Nah.
Yes.
I loved Pig. I loved Pig.
Yeah.
We all right, so we'll use this to segue into the main. We'll do Pig first because I think
We're
can get
good
through
at segues.
it. We'll do it faster.
I was gonna see it with my dad, but he bailed.
Oh damn, that's
Yeah.
a perfect you and your dad.
I know, man. I know.
Pig.
Bum me
we
out.
won't get spoilery on Pig. We might have to get a little spoilery on Green Knight.
I mean, it's based on a 700-year-old poem.
Poem.
Like, if you haven't seen it
Yeah.
by now, that's kind of on you.
But Pig, I thought, I don't know. I just thought it was really good. I thought the script was very well written. I thought it was subtle and it respects the audience a lot. And I really appreciated that it didn't do what I thought from the trailer it was going to do.
Yeah.
Without
was
saying
Nicolas
too
Cage?
much. Nicolas Cage, here's the thing.
How was he?
You know I'm a Nicolas Cage apologist. I love Nicolas Cage.
I think Nicolas Cage is great.
He's a brilliant actor when he
I've
is well
written-
directed
I wrote-
and has a good script.
I wrote an entire piece about Nicolas Cage about how he's so good because he doesn't do what everybody else in Hollywood does, because so many other actors, even when they like let themselves go, it's within a contained like
Yeah.
like one of the very few people that comes to mind in like recent years that has like gone full out like sobbing, crying, that has actually allowed themselves to look like gross on screen is Florence Pugh in Midsommar.
Yes.
And
yeah, fully.
like so many actors, even when they're like just completely letting go and in the moment, you can feel the acting.
Yeah.
Like you can feel them like
Caught you
being
acting.
dramatic.
Yeah.
Nicolas Cage, I feel like, is the one actor in Hollywood who literally will just let himself go and do like anything, and he's fearless on screen. And
which is a weapon that can be wielded correctly and incorrectly.
Yes,
Like
exactly.
some of his movies, like I didn't see Wally's Wonderland or whatever, but like some movies are clear that the director just like was afraid to tell Nicolas Cage anything, and it's just like, just do whatever. You're Nicolas Cage, it's fine, you know. Whereas like Pig,
or like I'm
was a
hiring Nicolas Cage
well-teamed-
specifically to be like weird
to
Nicolas
be weird
Cage.
Nicolas, to be I need to pay off my castle Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
But Pig is just very understated and very, very sensitive. I mean, he won an Oscar for fucking Leaving Las Vegas, right? Like, dude can act.
Yeah. He also, I feel like he's also kind of hitting like the kind of late career renaissance that Keanu Reeves had like a couple years ago, where it's like they both, because in very different ways, you know, kind of Keanu Reeves with John Wick, and then, you know, Nicolas Cage, he's been doing a lot of like indie and like weird horror and genre stuff, which some of which have been like great.
Yeah, love Mandy. You still haven't seen Mandy.
Mandy, Color of Space, like.
Color Out of Space I liked less, but I still liked it.
I mean, they're both fantastic. Like, even like, what was it, like Mom and Dad, I liked. And
I never saw that one.
But Pig is, I think it'll surprise people, because if they're expecting like crazy, like over the top Nicolas Cage, like it's not that. Like, he's still a very distinct character.
The trailer makes it seem like it's going to be Mandy John Wick.
Yeah.
The trailer
it's
that I
not.
saw made it look like a slow burn.
Well, then you saw a more accurate trailer.
It's more meditative
Yeah.
than I think people might be expecting from Nicolas Cage. But like, it was the movie that made me remember, or like want to tell, like, look, young children, like, look, gather around, Gen Z. I told you, see, like Nicolas Cage. I told you he can act. He's not just the crazy guy, like in
nobody
the
believes
National
me.
Treasure, like clips.
Hey, National
you know?
Treasure is great.
It is.
10.
National Treasure 3 win.
But I'm saying, like, that's literally like all they remember him from.
Yeah.
But I'm like, no, Nicolas Cage in The Rock, Nicolas Cage in Moonstruck, leaving like he does.
Next.
Yeah.
Next.
So
Nicolas Cage in Next.
Also,
Knowing.
Knowing was
One of the
actually-
greatest science fiction masterpieces of all time, according to
Roger
frickin'
Ebert.
Ebert. Straight up.
I don't hate that movie.
I like it.
It's not great. It has a scary shot in it when they look out the window and that like ghost angel whatever is standing in the yard. That's fucking terrifying. Anyway, the fuck are we talking
I
about?
know,
Pig.
Pig and Nick
Talking about
Cage.
Pig.
We have some comments from our beautiful patrons, patreon.com/easyallies. You can join in for this in $7 and up tier. I'm great at that.
also Alex Wolff, he and Nat Wolff,
he's
his brother,
great.
he and his brother have been doing some work, especially Alex. Like, he's been like
What's his brother in?
Nat Wolff. He was just in God. This is what I can't think off the top of my head. Like, this is what ADHD does to you. Like, people ask you a question on the spot, and you're like,
I usually just say random shit. That's what I do.
Just make something
Yeah, I
up.
was just blah.
no, because the thing is with
Correct me in the
ADHD, it'll
comments.
bother me. Like, if I like get it wrong, like it's gonna bother me. It's gonna bother me the whole time. Yes. Oh, he was just in The Stand, which we're not going to talk about that.
Why was it bad?
Oh, we're not going to talk about that. Like, I
guess that means
it didn't
bad.
happen. It didn't happen. Like the Dark Tower movie didn't happen.
Yo, Dark Tower movie, dude. What the fuck? I read all those books.
Mortal. That was the one thing I saw him in recently. It's
Okay.
I actually really like that. He's been in more like Nat Wolff has been in more like indie stuff, but Alex Wolff was like just an old like. The dude did Old,
He was in Hereditary.
like Jumanji, like both the Jumanji movies. He's the kid that he's in the Jumanji and Welcome to the Jungle and Jumanji the Next Level.
Welcome to the jungle.
Oh, in the beginning he gets pulled in.
Yeah,
Okay. I liked those.
I love those movies.
Oh,
I kind of liked it.
I love
They're,
those movies.
Really
Hey,
fun.
good on them for cranking that sequel out quick. You blinked,
geez,
and
yeah.
that sequel was in the
kidding me?
theaters.
That's because Dwayne Johnson was still
Yeah.
living in the jungle in the same camp in the same.
They film it all in Hawaii.
Sure,
like
yeah.
he just wants to hang out there, and they film everything.
Crazy.
Yeah, but yeah, like Alex Wolff is really good in this too, and like man, that kid's like quietly like I was like, damn, he's been in like he's
Yeah,
real young and
yeah.
he's had a really solid like career start where I feel like younger actors now more and more, including like American actors, because it never really used to be the case. Where like to be a young actor, you'd start out in like crappy TV shows. You'd never really had to do like the sequel, like direct to video, like horror movie, and you'd like work your way up. And now I feel like a lot of these young actors and like their mid-20s and younger, like they're like okay, Timothy Chalamet.
Yeah, I was
like they're
just
all
gonna
like
say,
coming
like,
out of like
Timothy
they're all
Chalamet.
Florence Pugh. Like they're
Yeah.
all like just like making very smart decisions about what
They all
love
just hit some
Florence
Netflix
Pugh.
movie or
I
something. There's
love
just so
Florence
much content now. It's like so
Or
much.
they hit an emotionally
There's-
difficult indie, and then
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
they just show their chops right out the gate.
Like,
Yeah.
am I wrong in thinking there's 50 times more movies now than there was like 10 years ago?
Yeah, you're not
You're not
wrong.
Pretty
wrong, yeah.
insane with how much content there is, and I feel like it's.
But I think Netflix is the new like Disney Channel where
Yeah.
it's like you can get caught in the gravity of Netflix. Like you could be Noah Centineo and just be in Kissing Booth for the rest of your life.
Although
Yeah,
he
the
is,
boys I
although
know.
Yeah,
he
he's
is going to be in
in Tall
Black
Boys.
Adam.
He is going to be in Black Adam.
He was going to be the lead in the Masters of the Universe reboot, but
he's
I
Tarzan? Or he's not
suspect
He-Man?
but I suspect he probably made the right call in backing out of that because
Oh.
I can't like. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of nostalgic, but it's one of those franchises where it's like, who gives a shit about?
Right, I think
like,
He-Man
Masters of the
always
Universe
kinda-
Oh, yeah, I
anymore?
never got into it.
We've moved on from the 80s
Yeah.
machismo, I think, of we don't need masculinity anymore.
No.
I mean,
80s are
I
for
certainly
Cronenberg,
don't.
and that's it.
Dwayne Johnson covers it all for everybody.
Yeah, Dwayne Johnson. Perfect picture of the perfect man. Anyway, Colt Smith says, okay, first Nick Cage is so damn good when he has good material to work with. Dude can act. Second thing is the script is really well written and really makes you think and feel all the feels. I think it's a tad slow, not in a way that harms it, just in a way that might be off-putting to a lot of people. All in all, great film.
Yeah, it's kind of like
Definitely slow burn, yeah.
It's definitely one of those things like we mentioned before that if you're expecting to go in with like Gonzo Nicolas Cage, like it's not. It's much more like contemplative and like meditative and more of a. Yeah, it's kind of like The Green Knight, which we will get to later.
Well, let's
Yes.
get into it in a sec.
Yes.
I just wanted to say that patron saint of Reaction Shots, Tokyo Slim, also shouted out Alex Wolf.
Got that Bruce Lee set, Tokyo Slam. You're jealous.
Tokyo Slim's one of our patrons.
Yeah.
I see.
And he always writes, well, you hear. He writes in
Oh.
quite a bit.
Tokyo Slim had my favorite tweets
we-
about
we
Green Knight.
appreciate
I really enjoyed that.
Would you like
We
to
love
write
you,
for
Tokyo
Screen
Slim.
Rant?
Hey, getting a job
I always
offer
feel like
right
if,
there.
I always feel like if people
Tokyo
are writing,
Slim would be great.
Yeah,
I'm saying
it
I
would
always
be
feel like
great.
if people are writing that much in comments and then they clearly have a lot of passion, a lot of knowledge, like why not turn that into something you
We
can?
have a few of our commenters actually are like write for stuff. Zach
Yeah.
Wojnar, I think, writes for stuff.
He's Screen Rant.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
yeah,
I
he's
thought
ours.
he was Screen
Yeah, he's
Rant.
us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
he's ours.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's talk about the Green Knight. Okay, let's us talk about the Green Knight for a second.
Yes.
All right, because here's the deal. So I loved it. I liked it while I was watching it. I mean, I loved the way it looks. For me, like to love a movie, a lot of times just good colors is what does it.
It's pretty.
And
I'm in.
this movie is really
Yeah.
pretty. And after it was over, I was like, okay, what are we like? I understood the story, and I was like, okay, is this about like accepting death, or is it just about like honor? Is it about getting over hubris? You know. So then I've like been reading about the actual poem and stuff.
I've written a lot about
Which
it.
I should have
Yeah.
done before the movie. You know,
I've
I
written
didn't
a
know I didn't know
lot
homework
about it.
was involved.
Well, that is kind of a funny thing, which I sort of appreciate about this movie is that it can be a different thing if you know the source material and if you don't. And I think that for me, it encouraged me to look into the source material. Like I got the book on my Kindle or whatever, and I've read the little foreword by whatever his name is, David Lowery or whatever. Yeah, really interesting stuff, and like the differences between the original poem and stuff, and like how Morgan Le Fay is they made her
Did you
his
read
mom
some of my
in
pieces?
this. I don't know, maybe.
I was like, those might have been some of mine. Like, I was like, I've written
I think
a
I
lot
mostly
about
read
this.
his little foreword.
Oh, he might. Yeah.
He kind of mentioned it, but like basically like the brass tacks of the story is the mom conjures up a challenge for her son to prove his honor.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. Which is very different than the original.
Which is
poem.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I also think that they snuck in some like learning to accept death with honor into it because that's a
That's in the-
line that's repeated throughout
That's
the
in
movie.
the poem too.
Yeah.
So, fun fact: my background is I have a master's in literature, and my
Well,
focus.
shit.
My
Have we
focus
got
was
a good guess?
one of my focuses
Perfect.
was Arthurian
Perfection.
legend.
Arthurian legend.
Yes. So
My goodness.
I was like, finally, my time has come. Like
Yeah,
that. Like I've
shit.
not wasted my degree. So.
Damn.
Yeah, it was funny because I had a couple friends that when this movie came out, they're like, "Oh shit!" And they're like, I was like,
You're like,
Get right.
let's go.
Dusting them off.
So, what I really appreciated about this movie, so for those of you that do not remember high school English class, this is based on Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, which, it's
Written
old
in
Arthurian legend.
1340 something.
Yeah, it was like late 14th
By
century.
question marks.
Yeah, late 14th century. And what I really appreciate about the movie is that it really remains true to the spirit of the poem, but it takes a lot of, and it updates and changes a lot without fundamentally I think he did a really brilliant job with because the character is very different of Gawain. Like I actually interviewed Dev Patel. And I said that.
My man.
And I said that. I was like,
Skins.
so I was like, your character's very different in the poem than he is in the movie. I was like, in the movie, he's a lot more.
He kind of sucks.
Yeah, and he's like, oh yes. He's like, early on, he's like, I talked to Dave and was like, so how do we make this guy more likable? Because he's like, initially he was worse. He was like, he's just this guy with like a silver spoon in his mouth, and he's like, he just wasn't
really?
likable. He like, so we had to find that balance, and I was like, yeah. Real different. I was like real different from the poem
Because he's like all about chivalry
he's very
and
pious
honor and
and like
being chaste.
Yeah. And but I think David Lowery did a really smart job, and he added a lot of characters. He also excised like quite a bit of it that it was like he kind of sensed rightly that like, okay, this is gonna really drag down the movie, so I'm gonna speed this up and kind of just like symbolically like represent it in the movie. So I think it's one of the best adaptations because it's very much a blueprint for how, and granted it's hard to say like, about a 700-year-old poem. We're not talking about like a comic book here.
Right.
But it's one of the best adaptations I've seen in the sense that it remains true to the spirit of it, but kind of becomes its own thing while still somehow capturing all of the themes that were present, like all of them in the original poem. So, and it's also probably one of the most beautiful movies I've ever seen. Like, it's just a gorgeous movie.
Yeah. It does, like, knowing more context of the poem now, I kind of appreciate, and I know that this is something that frustrated a lot of people, but I appreciate the lighter touch and not over-explaining everything. Like I appreciate
it's very ambiguous.
Yeah, I appreciate that
So
ambiguity.
ambiguous.
And I think I think more movies, especially some like horror movies like Midsummer or Hereditary, like needed way more of that. Like they hold
disagree.
you so hard. Dude, I hate those
I
movies.
like a shade of ambiguity. I don't like when the whole movie's ambiguous.
So I appreciate
ambiguous.
that it held the audiences, or I appreciate that it didn't dumb things down for the audience. It was like, we're just gonna go hard on this, and I'm trusting that you guys are smart enough to like make your own decisions, which I really appreciate. I do think there may be a few pivotal moments that could have needed a little bit more clarity or like clear direction and meaning. Because there are a few things where you're like, I could interpret this particular moment in like three different ways, and it makes very different. It makes for a very different interpretation.
And traditionally, I don't really like that because then there's like no right answer. There's no wrong answer, but also there's no right answer. And I usually just
there's definitely some wrong answers with this. Like I did a
I
podcast
just feel empty.
last week or 2 weeks ago, and like one of the co-hosts, he's like, well, I kind of read it like this. He's like, well, Alisha, like, what do you think? And he's like, I don't know. And I was like, and he's like, well, I'm not wrong. You can interpret it anyway. And like the other, like me and the other guy, we were like, no, that's, you can be wrong. That's pretty wrong.
I mean, it's like, definitely like, that's not what the poem was about. But like, Tokyo Slim had a good example that I think was pretty good about a third act change. Because the part with the castle, right, when it's like, he's in this illusory castle, and there's the second Alicia Vikander, and it's all like, if I understand correctly, it's like conjured up, and that king is like actually the Green Knight or something. Basically,
he's Lord Bertilac in the poem.
Yeah,
and it's basically the whole thing, which is actually, the poem itself is actually funnier. Like there's like some funny moments in it.
At the at-home screening thing that I watched, they had Lord Deep Voice, whatever his name is, Rowan Innocent,
Ralph Innocent,
yeah.
Innocent, yeah.
he read that part.
Yeah.
And with his voice, I was just like, but like, yeah, the poem is funny.
It's really funny, like, and all through it, it's funny. But to the end of it, or like the very end, yeah, it's like the Lord Burlack, who in this, he's not named, and it's Joel Edgerton's character reveals himself to be, like, he's the Green Knight in the end. He's like, oh, and he like reveals himself to be the Lord. He's like, haha, this was all just a lark, a game, crafted by Morgan Le Fay, basically because she was pissed at Guinevere and her brother Arthur, and just literally just wanted to scare Guinevere to death by sending Arthur on this stupid quest, and instead Gawain jumped in her way. So like Gawain literally just like fell ass backward into doing this in the poem, and it was like, and so it was like, well, okay. She's like, well, that's fine. Like it's fun to mess with the knights anyway. But this was all like orchestrated by Morgan Le Fay just because she was being the petty bitch. Like,
the change to make it his mom, Morgan Le Fay, as his mom.
It gives it more meaning. It gives it more meaning. It gives it a lot more meaning. And it's
they
also,
still ended on a joke. But
and it's also really like, I feel like that type of setup where it's just like a woman just being petty with another woman and catty, like that's so outdated. Like, so I think it was very smart to make it, in this version of the movie, to make Morgan Le Fay Gawain's mother, and doing it to send her son on a quest in a very harsh way.
Honor.
Like in a way it's very loving, like very harsh. Like she's not a loving and like warm mom.
Right.
The only thing I read
But it
behind
worked.
the scenes was that he was writing about his own mom, and that's how that kind of came to be.
Yeah.
Was he ended up started writing about his mom was getting into his head when he was writing it.
Oh, funny.
Yeah.
It's like adaptation. But the thing I was going to say that Tokyo Slim brought up is in that scene, the basic setup, the exchange of winnings, right, is I'll go out and hunt, and whatever I get, I'll give to you, and then whatever you get, you have to give to me. And in the poem, the wife comes onto him and kisses him, so then he has to kiss the lord of that castle each time. And I think Tokyo Slim kind of makes the point that, like, in the movie, it's a little unclear that that's what's happening and, like, why they kiss.
Yeah.
Because, like, he only really kisses her on the cheek, and then she, like, kind of unclear if she, like, gives him a hand job or, like, what happens.
I mean, I'm pretty sure the giant cum shot on the, like...
But I don't know if that's him just...
That's pretty clear.
I don't know if that's him just getting worked up.
That's true, that's true,
and, like, coming.
That's true,
or,
that's
like,
true.
So it was a little just the way it was shot.
That's fair.
Because my girlfriend even was like, when they were, like, grinding on each other, she's like, what's happening? Are they...
That's fair,
having sex? Because I thought he didn't do that. Like, yeah. But that part was just a little, like, weirdly changed because it made it more confusing. Because then it added, like, a weird gay subtext to a lot of viewers, I think, where it's just, you got a kiss from my wife, so I have to kiss you.
Yeah,
now.
like I was curious about that because when I screened it and I shared my, like, initial reaction on Twitter or whatever, somebody commented, like, I heard that Joel Edgerton and Dev Patel, like, get horny or get gay in this or whatever. Like, is that true? And I was like, and I didn't want to say, like, no, because it's hard to say anything on Twitter without somebody taking it the wrong way. So I just didn't respond. But I was just like, if that's how people are, like, if that's what people are setting themselves up for in their head, like, that's going to be a problem.
Which because it's not.
It's not in there at all. But, like, sometimes I think people will, like, if they hear something might be in there and then it's not their expectations, they get mad. Which I can on one hand I can understand, but I was like, ooh, yeah,
but
that's
definitely
not really what happens.
From the poem too. There's no.
It's very different.
But there's no aspect of like, ew, no homo. Like they're just kissing. Like nobody gives a shit. Like
it's very different.
It's just like whatever.
But the poem itself is also very different too because like she literally just gives him 3 kisses. Like and the whole like so like there's not a talking fox in the poem.
Love a good talking fox.
Talking good fox. But it's basically he used that fox to make up for because like there's a whole big section of the poem where it's like the 3 days of the hunt that Lord Bertilac goes on.
Oh,
and it's like this whole extended sequence, and then the last day is he's hunting a fox, and it's actually really cleverly done in the poem. But I can see why they didn't do it in the movie because it would have wasted a lot of time. But it was like a parallel. Where it was like almost like cinematically cutting back and forth between the hunt and Lord Bertilac like physically chasing the fox the sly fox is evading him, and then back to the castle where Gawain is trying to like slyly evade. He's like a metaphorical fox evading the advances of the lady of the castle.
And it's all
and
about
he's like dodging her with words, and she's like,
how can he be polite and turn down her advances without hurting her
He's basically
virtue?
this thing like he basically says like, oh, I'm not dating right now. Like, oh, I have a girlfriend. Oh, I'm really not, like, you know, that's just not what I'm about right now. Like,
because he's trying to remain chaste but not offend her for
Yeah.
like coming on to
it's
him.
literally like, oh God, when it's every woman who's ever like just had a dude that did not take no for an answer, and it's like nervous. So she's like trying to be like, oh, I just, you know, I'm not really interested right now. Oh no, thank you, that's sweet, but like, oh, my boyfriend, you know, like, And so I was like, oh yeah, Godwin's like the girl in this relationship, and it's interesting for the Middle Ages that the lady was the aggressor, and Godwin was the although I guess not that weird if you're looking at the whole like evils of like feminine seduction.
Yeah, sure.
But and then Godwin was like the chaste, you know, like virtuous, like virgin, which I thought was really an interesting inversion of that. But it's very different in the like Godwin is not at all chaste. Like he's a fuck boy.
Well, but there was a
in
line.
This movie.
There's a line where Alicia Vikander Essel, I think the like real version of her,
which is funny.
Where she says he can't get it up.
Oh,
at least during that year, maybe because he's nervous.
I think it was probably just he was just distracted, like, and but yeah, some people did not know that it was the Alicia Vikander in both of those roles.
Oh yeah, she's definitely like
it's like
fake in the second one.
It's like my parents not knowing that Grand Moff Tarkin was CG.
Yeah. Oh, I had a friend do that with Johnny Depp at the end of Pirates of the Caribbean 5. And she's like, wow, that young actor they got to play Johnny Depp. And she's like,
really looks like
she's like, he's really good. And like literally all of us turned and looked at her, and she's like, what? And we're like, are you serious? And like I was like, we couldn't tell if she's trolling. And she's like,
that man's
no, he's
CG.
She's like, no, he's really good. We're like, sweetie, that's computer pixels. But it was so weird because like she definitely had like some makeup on, but it wasn't like she had like heavy prosthetics. And I'm like, she's a pretty
I'm usually
striking
bad at faces,
looking
and I
like
could tell it was
actress.
her,
Like so I was really shocked when my friend said, she's like, yeah, she's another film critic. She's like, yeah, some people did not know it was Alicia Vikander. I'm like, no. She's like, yeah. And then I saw somebody tweet that like maybe like 15 minutes later. I was like, oh my God. Like she's right. Like there really are people that can't tell it's her.
That's wild.
It's like the people. I imagine it's the same people that like see Clark Kent wearing his glasses and are like, wow, this definitely isn't Superman.
That's just a ripped ass office worker.
He takes off his glasses. Like, where did Clark Kent go?
Kent's so big.
He's huge.
Like, what the hell?
Or like the Marvel undercover look of like the glasses and the baseball cap. I'm like,
yeah,
that definitely hides Chris Evans' face.
Yeah.
Like, good job.
They put on like a gray hoodie, and it's just like they're invisible. Yeah, I love it.
Steve Rogers wearing a baseball cap. Good job. Nobody recognizes Captain America.
My favorite part, and a few other viewers' favorite part, was the part with the ghost.
Oh, it's my favorite part.
Who wants him to get her head?
Oh, Saint Winifred.
Winifred, that's what I was like. It starts with a W
Winifred, but based on Saint Winifred,
which is apparently from a different tale. It's not a tale.
It's not a tale. So it's Essel, the scavenger. And then Winifred. They're not in the poem at all.
Because the poem just goes straight from him leaving to that castle, right?
Yeah. And the first two are just like completely made up for the movie, but then Winifred is actually based on an old, like she's an actual like martyr from like Welsh mythology, where the story goes basically the same way, where she wanted to be a nun, but she was beautiful, but she wanted to be a nun, and then like a traveling, his name was Caradoc, so it's Welsh, and he was like a lesser prince, and he saw her and like basically wanted to have sex with her, and she was like no, because she was trying to keep her virtue. And he tried to rape her, and she got mad, or she escaped, and he was furious that she turned him down, and so he chased her down and beheaded her. And then her head rolled down the hill, and then Saint Beus, it's like Beeoun or something like that. It's weird. It's like Saint B, we'll call him that. He attached her head to her body and then resurrected her, and that's how she like became a saint. So it's like very close to the story that she tells in the movie, but I thought that was really smart because she's from like mythology and like a real martyr, but like she's fit so well into like the themes of the movie. I thought he did a really good job. Yeah,
it was cool.
Yeah,
I just like the way it was shot too. Like,
yeah,
when she slides toward him and Dev Patel's just like, what the fuck?
And she's like, why would you do that? Like,
Why would you ask me that?
Yeah. Why would you touch me? Yeah.
It's so good.
Erin Kelleman, another actress that has been in a lot of things lately.
Showing up in everything. How old is she? She could be 14 or 36.
Get that Marvel money.
This is
Yeah.
the one thing I've liked her in the most. I thought she was miscast in Falcon and Winter
Falcon
Soldier.
is just a bad show.
But she was, but in
In Solo, she was fine, I guess.
But I really liked her in this.
I was more distracted by her name in Solo. I was like, Infant Nest? What is her name? Who are you?
Infestation.
How do you? They kept saying her name the whole movie, and I'm like, what are you saying?
But have you seen Green Knight?
Yeah.
Okay, I was like, sorry. I was like, I feel like we're
because he didn't like it.
Yeah, I thought it was okay.
I'm gonna push you off the
I
chair.
don't mind. I don't mind like figuring out a movie and like analyzing it and like getting all figuring it out. I like that, but I need a character to attach to, and I didn't like anyone in this movie. Really.
See,
I need someone.
That was interesting in that I'm very character driven,
Yeah.
and I gotta be honest. If I had not been such an Arthurian legend and like medieval like scholar nerd, I probably would not have been as into this movie at the start, because I gotta tell you, for like a good like 2/3 of the movie, I was like, ooh, this dude is like, he's this version
He's
of
a
Gawain.
shitty
I
guy.
love Dev Patel.
Love
but
Dev
this
Patel.
is a tough version. This is a tough version of Gawain to root for. Like, I do not find any redeeming qualities in this guy at all.
Yeah, my wife and I are Dev Patel enthusiasts.
Yeah.
Oh,
We
yeah.
follow his career intimately.
Yeah.
My friend
So we were
Gabby has
stoked for
been
this.
saying Dev Patel Summer for like 2 years,
Yeah.
waiting for this movie to come out.
Which is interesting though, because it's like, I was surprised when I interviewed Dev Patel, I was like, woo, and I brought that up. I was like, he's very different. And Dev Patel's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, he was.
Yeah.
I did not like him. He's
couldn't-
like,
yeah.
I wanted to make him like, how do we make this guy more likable? I'm like, okay, thank God, because if that was like what you were going for, I would have been really interested to see what he was like before.
Yeah.
But it's a testament to Dev Patel's personality, or his prowess as an actor, that he can take a character that David Lowery kind of fundamentally made like unlikable, and you can still see like the vulnerability and the moments where he's scared and the potential for greatness in him. Like, that is really fine line to
great.
walk.
That's what the movie is about. Like, that's what it becomes about, is like him learning honor and learning virtue. Like, he looks up to it, but doesn't display it or have
He
it.
doesn't get it.
He
Like,
doesn't get it.
It's like
he doesn't
that
even know the
buzzword.
reason why,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Until the very, very end, after the Temptation of Christ thing.
It's him as a For Honor or whatever is like the version of what is it? Ethics in gaming journalism. Like, but what do you mean when you say that? I don't know, but ethics in gaming journalism. Like,
Yeah.
but what do you mean by that? What do you want? Ethics in gaming journalism. Like, okay. Like, so I feel like that was kind of like
He's
Gawain.
kind of he's got that vibe.
Yeah, he's that guy. Like, he's that guy through like 3/4 of the movie.
Yeah.
And
And then he like basically like
that flash forward sequence
looks in
is
a
brilliant.
mirror.
Oh, that was great.
And yeah, I really like that. He like looks in a mirror and says like, "Oh, this is what I would get if I did this."
That
Okay,
sequence,
fine.
and that's also not in the poem
Right.
too. Like, which I thought that was
Yeah, in the poem, Green Knight just wails
well
on him.
in the poem. He doesn't take the belt
did
off.
he kill him?
He
No.
doesn't kill him. It's
Are
pretty,
you
it's
sure?
pretty
That was the-
ambiguous.
Are
That
you
was
sure
Pretty
though?
damn sure.
Yeah.
Can you
That was-
guarantee it?
Yes.
100%.
He
That
goes
was-
like,
yeah.
we're spoiling this entire movie.
That was actually the one where he was like, okay, you can kind of read like this, and the other we were like, no, and he's like, well, but you kind of could. It's very ambiguous. We're like, no,
Because if he does kill him, what's the fucking point?
exactly. Like, there's
That's how I
literally
felt
no.
about the movie, though, kind of like.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
I could see why you would
Yeah.
feel that
Yeah.
way if you thought that.
So, but
I
like,
loved the Stone Giants
Yeah.
also, by the way.
yeah,
Don't know what the fuck was going on,
So
but
wait,
I loved him.
why couldn't he have not cut his head off?
Because then what would be the point?
it would have undermined the entire.
There'd be no
other
point in the movie. Like,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can't
Then
learn a
why
lesson
not-
if you're dead.
Then why like?
Also would have
Unless
been
the
a
lesson
really,
is, like,
would have been
you're
just
gonna
a
die.
really weird line delivery from Ralph Ineson, because it would have like he was like said it jokingly, and he's like, haha, just kidding, I'm actually gonna kill you now.
Right.
Like, that makes. No
It's
sense to
literally
me.
like the Martian Chronicles video game, where it all just leads
Yeah.
up to a fortune
Now
cookie.
there was a version where he did the original version. His head did get killed, and then David Lowery was basically like, "Oh, too dark." Like he was
Yeah.
like he had to like he was like
Yeah.
that's a little too much even for this.
So he didn't leave it open for the audience to either go down the dark path or not go down the dark
I
path.
mean, you can go down the path you're stupid if you do.
Because I mean, if
it's one of those things where I'm like, there are many ways you can kind of go with this movie and very many points. I feel like that's the one where it's like, I mean, I guess you could read it that way, but
like take the
that's
scene
a
where
much
he's
poorer movie.
tied up and it does the 360 pan to show the skeleton and then the back.
Yeah.
It's just showing like his fear of what'll happen if he doesn't move, or like showing what would happen, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, it's just showing us his thought process, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so like there are a lot of points in the movie where it does visual things. It like shows a subjective visual of an imaginary thing, you know. But I think like the delivery that Ralph Ineson does, Ralph Ineson?
Yeah, Ralph.
I want to
Dude
call
from
him
The
Rowan
Witch?
or something. Yeah, the dude from The Witch with the voice.
Great voice.
The delivery is full on, just like, haha.
Yeah.
Like, you passed the test. You did it. Like,
One of the
your mom told me to do this.
interesting things is visual, because you talk about visuals, like visual tricks, is all the mist and fog that was used in the movie.
Yeah.
It always denoted, whenever you saw a lot of mist and fog, it always denoted when Goblin was passing between the world of like ordered Christianity and like the wild, natural, like
totally.
supernatural. Every time there was fog, that was the like in between place where he was halfway between our world and the Fey world, the natural, or like the ordered and the like wild, the Christian and pagan.
Like
which
the
I thought
first
was
shot
really
of the
interestingly done.
the first shot of the castle, it looked like just an old church or like a non-building or something, and then the fox is like, hey, look, you know, and then it like the fog clears and it's this beautiful castle. Like, yeah, that's
Yeah.
I didn't catch that. That's cool.
Yeah. But I really like that flash forward sequence because
Very Last Temptation.
because
of Christ.
it was the thing that like in the very end, like the 11th hour, finally like maybe go, okay, there's the seed of like, there's the seed of the good man. Like that's when it got planted, because seriously up until that point I was like, man, I don't, just kill him maybe. Like I'm okay with that. Like I love Dev Patel, but like, man, but that
I
flash
saw a little bit
forward-
of it with the Winifred.
Yeah.
That's why I
thought
like
that-
that scene.
yeah.
I thought that was
Yeah. But like that flash forward
and he
was
does turn down sexy Vikander.
the moment that he like realized, if I continue down this path and I win by lying without honor, like I will, if I carry that guilt with me and that shame, it will twist me and make me bitter.
Yeah.
And that moment, I was like, okay, so there is a good man and a noble man inside, because if he hadn't been, he wouldn't have cared. He would have
Right.
gone back and been like, I'll use this to my advantage. Nobody has to know. Like,
Right.
I'm not going to use it, let it make me bitter. Like, fuck it. Like, I beat the system.
Right.
But he knew in his heart, he knew himself well enough at that point, had just the moment of insight where he spent the whole movie, like, not knowing himself at all, that I was like, okay, there's the turn. Like, there's the hero turn for me. And I really appreciated that end. And I also appreciated that David Lowery could then cheat and show you Dev Patel getting beheaded without him really getting beheaded,
Yeah,
which I was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
all right, like nice.
You get the catharsis.
nice cheat there. Yeah. Yeah.
This is a very interesting episode of Reaction Shots because we don't normally like dive into one movie like this so much. We're an hour in. We've used none
I
of
talk
the
a
comments.
lot.
I had a
Sorry.
question
I
about it.
talk a
forgot.
lot.
I had a question a minute ago, but I forgot. Fuck. It'll come to me.
Let's sit here quietly until you remember.
No, it's gone.
Staring.
Yeah, but I mean, we had a lot of comments, but I think we actually mostly hit on everything. But Brittany Fuller and Mikey Mo and a bunch of people wrote thoughts about Green Knight, but I think we kind of said a lot of them.
Who the hell was the 1917 kid? Kid from 1917.
The one who's acting was
The,
a little
like,
like he was in a
robber
different movie
kid.
for part of it.
Yeah, the little robber kid.
Just a shitty guy.
Just a robber on
Oh,
the road.
Barry
the little
Kell?
scoundrel.
Yeah.
Just a robber.
Who every time you see Barry, I never know how to say his last
Kogan,
name.
I think. Keoghan?
Keegan. Barry Keegan, I think. Every time you see him show up, like, oh, okay, he's about to be a shit. Like,
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
just in everything,
Yeah.
which he's an Eternal. So I'm like, okay, 110% he's going to, like, end up being
Villainous
betrayed.
turn.
Or, like, turn and, like, betray them
Yeah.
or something.
Well, that was something my roommate Omar said, like, when we were done with this movie, because he wasn't sure how I felt about it really either.
Yeah.
He thought it was mostly about, like,
It's a thinker.
hubris
Like,
or
it's
whatever.
definitely a thinker. Like,
But he was like, this main guy sucks. Like, he didn't see, like, very obviously villainous. Actually, I think Mikey Mo says this, too, is like, the beyond cartoonishly shady person who the main character naively trusts, only to suffer for trusting them. It's like,
but that's one of his tests, right?
I think that's the point.
Each character that he added was a different test that Godwin needed to pass. The first one, which is the scavenger, is I think illustrated that Godwin was not as worldly as he thought. He's very naive. He's very trusting, and it's good to have compassion.
And he thinks highly of himself too.
Yeah,
like,
it's
my
good to
thanks
be
is
like
enough.
exactly, like, and that too, like to my thanks is enough, and like so that knocked him down a peg. Winifred, I think, taught him to be altruistic and to offer help without expecting anything in return, and also to respect women.
Yeah,
and then
which I like that. That's something that he kind of did on his own. Like when he saw her that he was in her bed, he was like, "Oh, sorry, let me leave. It's not appropriate for me to be here."
Humanity of the movie. I feel like. That's
and then Essel was. I thought it was really smart putting that character in the movie because then later it made the temptation with the Lady Bertilac all the harder to resist, because then that's the idealized version of like
her,
the woman that he wants but can't be with because she's a peasant. But then
was she a peasant or a prostitute?
Both.
Okay.
Kind of little column A,
like,
little column B.
They started in a brothel.
Kind of both.
Okay.
But I think that was interesting because that also taught him, like the scene where before he's leaving and she's like, "Can I be your lady?" and he just kind of was like looked away from her.
Doesn't say anything.
And it was like that moment you kind of realized,
we've all been there.
Oh, I have to grow up. Like I can't keep messing with her heart like this. Like I knew in my heart, like we'd never be able to be together because of our class differences.
I want him
still
to be with her. I want them to get together.
I still
in my headcanon, he's dead, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Your headcanon is wrong.
My headcanon, he's rotting in a grave.
Everything's fine. They've got little jingle bells on their sweet babies. And the talking fox came back. And they hang out with the stone giants all the time.
They're in a Disney movie is what you want, basically. You're
Cartoon
like,
birds.
Yeah.
King Arthur's fine.
The green guy shows up every Christmas. They have a jolly feast.
The holly
Santa
sticks.
vibes. Yeah,
Santa Claus.
Green Knight.
They have a jolly feast.
Green Knight holiday special.
Who did not die. What?
When's the holiday special?
Oh my God.
Really
I'd watch
funny.
it. I need to see a ghost story. I was like too afraid to watch it.
I'd 100% watch like a Green Knight like holiday special where like the Green Knight is just like reading letters from kids or something.
Damn, I want
or like
this.
hosting like a sketch thing, like a holiday sketch where like
Imagine
Green
him
Knight
doing a ho ho ho.
The Green Knight and Friends.
SNL right now.
The Green Knight and Friends. He has like the knights, like he makes them do skits and stuff, and they're bad actors. Oh, I want this.
I
really want this
imagine
now.
him like trying to read through a story, and then like one of the knights like starts talking or makes a noise, and then he just like really awkwardly like you hear him like creak move and like look at him, but it just takes forever.
Yeah.
It's just like
which his character design was so good in the movie too. It's so really different from the poem. Like the poem, he's basically like he's a really like fancy knight, like nobleman. Like he's dressed in like a fur-lined cape and cloak, and he has like gold and like jewels all over his stuff. He's just happens to be like green, like from head to toe to hair to
his
horse.
Skin.
His skin, his horse is even green. But he's like a really finely turned out, like fabulously wealthy, like nobleman. So I think the design in the movie of him like really echoing like the pagan green man and like the horns kind of echoing like Cernunnos and the horn god. I really liked how pagan they got with his design in the movie. I thought that was really cool.
That was part of what made me also apply the like death and like accepting death kind of on top of this, and especially because of like Pretty Vikander version, her speech about green and returning to the earth, and she spoke it with such vitriol that she like hates death and hates decay, So I thought that was really interesting. Like, yeah, especially.
That was the only scene that took me out of the movie because I could like feel her acting.
The acting was a little.
I could feel her trying.
Her delivery on it was a little.
You'll get one of those with David Lowery in like every movie. I think it was like Yeah, I agree. Like that took me out of the movie. Like
she's a better actor than that. It felt too like a play.
It felt very much like this is the moment where I'm doing a monologue,
right?
And very much like the tone of it just got like way too weird, way too fast.
Yeah.
Like it didn't. And I think everything else in the movie was so more subtle and kind of natural in ways. That, like when she like went in on this, we're like,
Even her speech patterns got very like
Yeah.
theatrical.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very weird. Which I guess I
rolled with it, but I was like,
guessed
it
it
took
was
me
on
out of it a little
purpose,
bit.
But
Yeah.
I was like, why though?
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the few moments that like it actually took me out of it a little bit. It was like, oh, okay, they're doing a thing here, like
Yeah.
capital A, capital T, like okay,
Yeah, a thing.
yeah,
Totally.
Okay, we're at a crossroads because usually we aim for like hour and a half, and we haven't even gotten into the indies half of this episode.
Let's pick it up.
So, yeah, we can either rock it through it. Let's try it. So the second half of the episode was I wanted to ask people's. You doing all right on time?
yeah, I'm fine.
Okay.
I was like, I was just looking. I was like, really? Have we talked for?
Hour and 12 minutes so far. I think we started 4 minutes into that. Yeah, so I asked about people's favorite indies.
Nice.
Just kind of as a broad thing. And a lot of people actually brought this up. They were like, fuck you, what does indie mean?
Yeah,
like that's what everyone was saying. It's
Yeah.
like, I know, I did that on purpose. Just to see what would happen.
Then you have like the majors, and you have like the major minor studios,
right,
and
like,
you have the
Searchlight,
like,
so
like,
blurred.
blah, blah, blah.
It's so blurred now.
But basically, like, lame-o answer whatever you feel in your heart.
Okay.
Is an indie.
Cool.
I would say anything like for me, like it's like anything not from like the
big five.
not from Disney, Warner Brothers, Universal, Paramount, Sony, like the main studios, not even like Sony Screen Gems or and like
I get that.
I feel like anything else is pretty much fair game.
Like
Sorta.
The Fifth Element, one of the most expensive independently funded movies of all time.
Also look at who's like doing it. Like if it's someone established,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, you're not really indie.
Yeah.
You know?
Like Bong Joon-ho, who's funded by whoever,
Yeah.
it's gonna feel like an indie no
Yeah.
matter what.
Yeah.
You know, like fucking Paramount could be paying for it, and it's still gonna, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, Happy Gaming. I just asked what their favorites were. So Happy Gaming actually brought up Parasite, Whiplash, The Wrestler, Chef. Whiplash is too intense.
10 out of 10.
I also just want to punch Miles Teller in the face really hard.
He's
every time
got
I
a
see him.
punchable face.
He really does.
Yeah.
I love it.
That movie is very stressful, especially having gone to a conservatory myself. I was like, no.
I'm not an anxious person. It's very anxiety inducing. It was like watching Uncut Gems for me.
God,
really
That
I
is
hate
the most
that movie.
stressful movie ever
Really glad I watched it.
Yeah.
Will never watch it again.
Yeah,
it was
holy
like
shit.
having a low grade like
those
panic
guys-
attack for 2 hours.
That's like they traffic in that.
yeah,
the-
100%.
Those guys, but
100%.
God, Uncut Gems. It's just like make a good choice. What if you just make a good choice though?
I remember sitting there and I had two of my like fellow critics and friends sitting on either side of me, and like it got to a point in the movie where you could see him like path A. It was like a cartoon, like path A, bright light. Path B, like knives and darkness.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm gonna go to path B, and like all three of us at the same, like, like just
That was me,
groan.
dude.
You could
I
see
was-
him making the wrong choices.
I was just like, oh, it got to the point. Those are the kinds
I was
of
like,
movies.
I already have friends like this. I don't need to watch
Yeah.
this in a movie. Like,
Well, it's like, I mean, and like we've talked about this before. Like, I have difficulty with narratives about people who are destroying themselves.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
like you in this movie, not being able to find sympathy with Gawain.
Yes.
I can't find sympathy with this guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, just fucking die then. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, I have
Like,
a-
you're
I
not
have
a
a-
real person.
That's why at the end, I was so over it. I was like, okay, you want to die? Cut your head off. I'm leaving the theater. Bye.
I'm like
That's how
with
I am
you.
with Uncut Gems.
I have
Yeah.
a hard
Yeah.
time with
Or
that
Sid
too.
and Nancy.
Because I'm like, at a
just
certain
fucking
point,
die, please.
I'm like, at a certain point, go to fucking therapy.
Right.
Like, grow up, go to therapy, or like, you know what? I like, if you were my friend at this point, I'd be like, I can't help you anymore.
Yeah.
I'm cutting you out of my life. You're toxic.
And like disclaimer, obviously with real human beings struggling with addiction, I feel differently. Like
Yeah,
I
of
want to
course.
help
Of
real
course.
people.
But an
But
entertainment
a fictional
film.
goddamn character.
But he wasn't
Adam
even. He
Sandler.
wasn't even an addict. He was just.
I think he's a
moron.
gambling
He
addict.
was
kind of.
addicted to the gamble.
But he's a fucking
I don't
idiot.
think he was an addict. I think
loved
his
the
addiction
rush.
was to his the wrong image he held of himself, because he saw himself as this like player. Like you're not a player.
Yeah.
You're a moron. Like
yeah, you're just a loser.
Yeah.
Wanted to be a legitimate businessman, but
Yeah.
he was not.
Yeah.
Try
Yeah.
being legitimate first.
Yeah.
God.
or therapy.
Good
Again,
movie.
just go to therapy.
Go to therapy. Everyone go to therapy.
Everyone go to therapy.
BetterHelp.com/easy allies.
One of my favorite tropes in video games and movies, though, is hammering a jewel case to rob it.
Oh, sure.
One of my
With the
all-time-
butt of a shotgun, too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Love that. Happy Gaming also brings up Mary and Max. Oh yeah, I saw Chef recently for the first time.
Chef's
I
good.
fucking loved that.
Chef's
You watch the
really good.
show now too?
I haven't watched the show.
Yeah.
Chef's really good.
I've been a longtime fan of Jon Favreau.
What
I
a
liked-
multi-talented dude.
Yeah, I liked
That
The
guy
Big
is.
Empty as a teen, as a little nihilistic teen.
Swingers.
Yeah,
I mean, like, but I think that's what a lot of people forget is like Jon Favreau's been acting
been
for
around.
ages. So when he suddenly became, because
yeah.
like there's a whole generation that just knows him as like the Marvel and Disney
director
director,
guy.
and I'm like, yeah, he had like a whole acting career before he did
Mandalorian's
this.
great though.
Yeah,
But yeah, he was an actor 1st. Mm-hmm. They bring up Nightcrawler, which I didn't like.
10 out of 10.
I don't know if I watched like I think we got like a torrent or something. I
I
don't
think
know
it's
if the
another one of those
music was right.
movies that I'm like, I'm glad I watched it. I don't know. Then I'm like eager to watch it again. But Jake Gyllenhaal is great in it. But he's
What are
like,
you doing with your
Jake Gyllenhaal.
eyes?
This is Nightcrawler.
yeah,
That's why I'm obsessed, because it gave me this. I'll never forget this because of Nightcrawler. It's a vibe. It's a mood. Nightcrawler is a vibe
You've
and a
been
mood.
doing that face for years.
But Jake Gyllenhaal.
Now you
Little
want to see
Jakey
a good
Blue
Jake
Eyes
Gyllenhaal?
does it
Watch
better.
Enemy. That's a good Jakey Blue Eyes.
Jake.
Enemy's better.
I
not
once
Blue
saw
Eyes.
I once saw a
Enemy's
meme
great.
or like a
Enemy's
tweet or a
10.
meme where somebody was basically like, they were looking at an interview of him and they were like the actor alignment. It was like Jake Gyllenhaal's like chaotic evil.
He really is.
Robert Pattinson's chaotic neutral, and Daniel Radcliffe is like chaotic good or
Yeah.
something like that. And I was like,
yeah.
That makes perfect
wow, that's
sense.
I
That
was like,
makes perfect sense.
Perfect.
I was like, nailed it, perfect.
Yeah, nailed
Wouldn't
it.
change a thing. Like that is
Nailed it.
100% like absolutely Jake Gyllenhaal, chaotic evil.
Yeah.
so chaotic.
Robert
evil.
Nocturnal
Pattinson,
Animal.
true
Yep.
chaotic neutral.
Guys,
Like,
Robert
just true
Pattinson is
neutral.
great. I love Robert Pattinson. Cosmopolis.
I don't like that one.
You didn't like that one?
One of Cronenberg's weakest. Come on. Bottom half.
His weakest is that dumb one with what's her name and just having sex with therapists. Dangerous. What was it? You know what I'm talking about? What's her name from Pirates of the Caribbean?
Yeah. Keira Knightley.
Keira Knightley. A dangerous proposal? A dangerous method?
No,
A dangerous
Dangerous
method.
Method.
method. Yeah, I was like dangerous.
Yeah,
That
bottom,
movie sucked.
That's in the bottom
Affair.
half
I
as
was
well.
like liaisons. No, wrong one. Yeah.
I liked Cosmopolis.
It's in the middle.
I don't know. Don DeLillo. It's good writing. It's definitely in the middle.
In the middle / towards the bottom half. I can name
Fair,
10 better.
Well,
15
yeah,
better.
easily. Dead Ringers.
Yep. Naked Lunch.
Yeah.
The Brood. Scanners. The Fly.
Oh, nice.
The
Sorry,
Fly's the
I'm
best.
reading
So
through.
many.
I'm still reading through the
Eastern Promises. History of Violence.
Attack the Block. Nice.
So
Attack the Block
many.
is great.
The Nightcrawler.
Yeah, Tyler Travis brings up Nightcrawler and Primer.
Primer.
Love Primer. I love Upstream Color.
Here's
Though,
a
like,
question.
who's to say if Shane Carruth is chill as a dude? I don't know.
I got a really good question. It dates back to our last episode.
All the way back
Does Fear Street count?
as well.
Because it had Netflix.
As indies?
Yeah, because it had Netflix backing for 3 movies.
I loved Fear Street. It was good.
But it
fun.
was also, it felt like super indie.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think you can include
Netflix.
streamers and like the
indies.
indie. Honestly, like labels don't
get
even
that.
matter anymore. Like we're so past labels. It's 2021.
We sort of are, though.
I mean,
Yeah.
but that's the thing. Like literally, like the
Yeah.
other day, I was literally having a conversation with another editor because I was like, I literally don't know how the fuck to categorize like
Yeah.
movies. Like, is this a reboot, a sequel, a reboot, cool, a remake, a reimagining, a restart, a spiritual sequel, a spiritual successor, a reboot, cool? Like, what is this? Like, I'm like, oh no, this is just the thing that Hollywood's been doing with everything, where it's a soft reboot.
Soft reboot.
It's like
Yeah.
where they're calling it
Classic.
a sequel, but it's really like, but let's be honest,
But
it's a
let's-
reboot.
yeah.
But you're too scared to just reboot it hardcore because you know fans are insane. So you're bringing
They
over
really
some of
are.
the
Suicide
original.
Squad.
You're bringing over some of the original cast to pass the torch. But really, the movie is like a reboot. So just call it a fucking reboot.
call it a
Like,
reboot.
Yeah.
So
Let's call it a reboot.
anyway, yes. But I feel like there's just not really, like, there's just. It's really hard to like label things anymore, especially with streaming. Because
Yeah.
it's like there
Yeah.
are like whole categories of things on streaming.
Yeah.
Like we don't even have words for it.
Yeah.
I mean, Netflix,
Like,
the
it
way
felt
Netflix
so-
names categories is
Yeah.
bonkers.
Yeah.
Like it felt indie, but it's freaking
But like even
Netflix.
things like
Yeah.
where they're like, this movie was a success. I'm like, how do we even know what's success in like a current pandemic world? Like something that
honestly-
releases day and date, like they don't even release their numbers on
Yeah.
streaming
Right.
platforms. Like we literally have no like.
I honestly
barometer for
think
what
they
the
just
success
decide.
is.
They just decide if something is. They're just like,
Yeah.
let's say that one's a success because then we can leverage.
We're
the
gonna
next thing
cherry
we
pick
want.
this piece of data,
Right,
And
right.
then you know,
Because
blah,
it's
blah,
like, are
blah.
you counting plays? Are you counting
Exactly.
watches?
Or when
Are
they're
you
like,
counting-
this
it's the
many
same as
millions of
YouTube.
people streamed this weekend. Okay, but did they watch it the whole way through?
Right.
How many subscriptions did you get
Did
off
it
of this? How many,
autoplay
how many
in the
unique
menu?
subscriptions did you get off of this?
Right.
How many times did they watch it again? Did they pay for it? So it's just
Yeah.
like, I stay away from the whole like argument of like, this movie's success or failure. And I'm like, we don't
It's
know.
like the Black Widow lawsuit where it's like, okay, like should they like have been giving her a cut of the $30 from the take home as part of the ticket sales? Like, would that have satiated her box office
For
thing?
her to
Like-
get to that point that it was at after all that time in Marvel, they fucked her.
Yeah.
For it to
They
have gotten
must
to
have,
that point.
yeah.
She didn't
Yeah.
want to. She didn't want to.
Do
She
that.
didn't want to go. Yeah.
No, the fact that it got all the way there and then it
Yeah.
is going down, like
They were
that's
estimating
crazy.
something like she lost anywhere from like $30 to $50 million.
That's not nothing.
Yeah.
That's walking around money.
Which I mean,
right
that's the
there.
thing. People are like, she already made this. Like,
Think about how much
millions.
Disney's
I'm like, yeah, but it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. I'm like,
matter.
they signed a contract with her, and she still got screwed. You know, like
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
anyway.
And they're the ones
yeah.
making the money. Like,
Yeah.
how are people okay with that? What?
Yeah.
Especially when you read about like Genie Plus or whatever the new Disney Fast Pass thing.
Yeah.
It's just like, man, damn. You guys
I'm
charge
going through
for
like a midlife crisis all of a sudden. It's just too much content. I'm
I think
serious.
that's just called burnout.
Yeah.
I was like,
There's
I don't
just-
think
yeah.
that's a crisis. I think
Yeah.
that's just burnout.
I've just never felt like there's so much that it's like devaluing everything.
Yeah. You know what I was
Fear
thinking
Street
about?
was
I was
good.
thinking about the other day. Like, I really miss because everything is on demand now, and we can like. I feel like watching this. I'm gonna watch this. Like, I remember going because I'm old, kids. How do you do, like fellow kids? I
We might be all about the same
Yeah,
age,
shit.
probably.
I remember going to like the video store, and it was such a treat. Like on
Oh,
Fridays,
yeah.
my mom
Oh,
would
my
take
God.
us on
Yeah, it's
Fridays.
losing that like treatness of it.
Yeah.
Even like weekly
used to
TV
spend-
used to be a treat, and now
Oh,
it's
yeah.
binging. All the like treatness
There are
of
very
it.
few. I feel like
Yeah.
I feel like the Marvel shows do this a little bit.
Prestige television, I think, is still
I
alive on
feel
Disney
like-
Plus and
Yeah.
HBO.
Yeah,
Hanging
they
in
do a little
there.
bit. Like Mare of Easttown did a little bit, but I feel
Yeah.
like the last true like water cooler show was Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Like, and then the last season we just all came together because we all hated it.
Yeah,
but,
yeah, yeah.
But that was great. Like that was a great time. It was like
I don't-
Sunday night, time to log into Twitter and see how people are dragging the hell out of like these two morons that are piloting the show to the
my God,
ground.
they're so bad. Like, and it's so obvious.
Let's not go down this road. No.
Okay.
Look at their IMDb credits. They had shit before that
They
show.
admitted it. They
I
had-
don't know how they got that show in the
One of them
fucking
wrote-
first place.
They
One of them
literally
wrote
admitted-
Troy.
They literally admitted they had no idea like how
Great.
they had no idea what they're
Troy.
doing. Okay, Sage Mode Q.
Sage Mode
Attack the
Q.
Block.
There was
yeah.
not a praise nor a condemnation.
Lost
It was-
in translation. Sad Bill Murray, another Renaissance, like Nicolas Cage and
Sad
Keanu.
Bill Murray.
I love Sad Bill Murray. Also, yes, Attack the Block is so good.
Good one.
I'm really glad
Colt
to
Smith,
see that they
Tragedy
are reteaming.
Smart.
Who's reteaming?
Get that Star Wars hat.
John Boyega and Joe Cornish.
Oh, the Attack
yeah.
the Block director?
Yeah.
That's gonna be sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like John Boyega, and I hope he doesn't get like eaten up or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Detroit.
Detroit.
Catherine Milo.
I actually like that movie more than people
I never saw
seem
it.
to.
Milo's best.
It's a tough watch.
I really didn't
It's,
like Hurt Locker.
It's
It soured me on her.
what's his name? He's Will Poulter's another one that you know, and he's in a movie. He's just gonna be an ass. Like
Yep.
you just know. he's
Bandersnatch.
He's terrible in that movie.
Oh,
of a
he's
bitch.
the like developer guy in Bandersnatch.
Yeah,
Yeah. Anytime you
Yeah.
see that guy, you're like, all
Yeah.
right, here we go.
Yep.
You're like, I'm gonna hate him, and I'm gonna love every second of it, but I'm gonna hate him.
Yeah.
I kind of
Like,
liked him in Bandersnatch for
love
that
him.
reason.
I
because
love
they
him and I
kind of-
hate him.
They leveraged that in Bandersnatch. Colt Smith brings up Tragedy Girls, which is a fantastic
Nice.
little horror film from Fangoria, which I've never heard of. The
Yeah,
Hallow.
it's good.
It's
These
good?
are a lot of like indie horror.
Yeah. Irish
good choices,
horror
Colt
tale.
Smith. These are all really
Grabbers
good.
is hilarious.
Yeah.
The Witch is an emotional. I love
Double
The Witch.
V's. Double V's.
Would
The
thou
Vivitch.
love to live deliciously?
Oh yeah, I love The Witch so much.
Yeah.
Brick, also another one of
Brick.
my faves.
Yeah.
In Bruges, dude, I love In
Bruges.
Bruges.
I
You ever
quote
seen
that movie all the time to myself.
Bruges?
Oh yeah.
I love In Bruges.
Literally 3 days ago, I was carrying one of my cats around, quoting her. She wasn't impressed at all. But it was a couple of lines I can't repeat because they're slightly offensive.
Really offensive.
But I was
In
quoting
Bruges
her.
is like one of those movies where it's like, why is this movie so cozy? It's like really depressing, kind of, but it just makes me
I'll tell you
feel
what,
warm.
like the scene. I used to do a column back in the day where I basically I took like different actors and actresses and broke down like 5 scenes from their career that showed why they were like amazing at what they do. And I picked the scene for Colin Farrell, I picked the scene from In Bruges where he's gonna kill himself and he's telling the story and he's like sobbing, but then he like turns on a dime from like he's like fine and then he starts like sobbing, and it's like not the like dramatic, like it's so natural and it's such a like there's so many different moods in that one scene. I'm just like, damn, I was like, he's so good. I love Colin Farrell. Like
I feel like he's underappreciated.
Colin
weirdly.
Farrell is a dude I will always root for. Like he hardcore got cast as like the handsome, charming leading guy where he's very much almost like Brad Pitt, where it's like he's not that guy. He has that face, but he's like a character actor.
Yeah.
Bring back
like, through
weird
and
Brad
through.
Pitt, please.
Like he's like a character actor through and through.
Cliff Booth.
Jorgen Moore brings up the Blair Witch project.
Oh, that's one of my favorite indies ever.
Is a favorite because it really
Straight
scared the
up.
hell out of me as a child. Sorry, Isla, but I'm going to pull a Tokyo Slim and just list a bunch of movies. Sure, I love it. Locke, A Ghost Story,
Locke,
Green Room.
I have
was
to
cool.
say, Locke is that's a movie you want to talk about, like an actor where you're like, damn,
Yeah.
this dude's
That's
good.
Tom Hardy just
in
driving.
a car,
Driving,
yeah.
talking on a
Yeah.
phone to himself. So I'm like, and I was
I've
riveted.
heard it's actually good.
I was
really
riveted, and and
Yeah.
it's all because of Tom Hardy.
Ripping.
Yeah.
I need to see it. I
It's
haven't seen
literally, I'm not joking. It's literally Tom Hardy in a car talking to different people on the phone. That's it.
That's
There's like
the
maybe
movie.
1 or 2 scenes where he's not like in the car, and
Like
I was like,
Cosmopolis.
I was riveted.
It's a good one.
So good.
Yeah, I need to see it. I haven't seen A Ghost Story. I love Green Room.
Good one.
I really like Under the Silver Lake
Yeah.
too. You didn't like it?
Yes.
Let's talk about it.
Do we have to?
We don't have to.
Blech.
I thought it took an interesting swing at showing how like shitty Hollywood is at using women while doing the thing it's criticizing.
Maybe because I live here, you know. Maybe we all live here, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I like write about. I'm like, ugh. Like I hate when Hollywood tries to like write about itself, but also doesn't like real smarmy. Like
That's why I
aren't
didn't like La La
aren't we
Land.
so smart?
I hated La La
kind of
Land.
way.
Yeah. I don't like when Hollywood is like patting itself on the back.
See, I like that because that's more. I feel like that's an homage to like the best of Hollywood. Like, but I think I don't dislike it when like Hollywood tries to get like real intellectual with itself. I'm like, oh, go screw yourself. You're not that smart.
I liked Under the Silver Lake because like the main character doesn't realize he sucks. Like I don't know. I liked that about him. La La Land I saw at a SAG-AFTRA screening with my friend, which made it so funny because Emma Stone was like there, and people were asking her their stupid navel-gazing bullshit questions where they talk for 3 hours before saying anything, and I was just like, "This is so funny." After watching La La Land, oh man, The Invitation, that was a fun
Q&As
one.
are the
Love it.
worst.
Q&As suck. Blue Ruin also great.
I like Blue.
Yeah.
I liked Green Room better. Get Out, Jojo Rabbit, Ex Machina.
It's weird because like
Rabbit.
this is where we start to get into the category of like
Right, like is
It's
Get Out,
Post,
Jojo Rabbit?
post
Like,
Marvel
like,
Watiti.
it's an indie, but like
I
this
think it
is-
counts. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Jojo
Yeah,
Rabbit.
I love
Yeah.
both these movies, Get Out and Jojo
Oh, Get
Rabbit,
Out's
but it's
amazing.
like
I Can't Breathe
Yeah.
Unless You Tell Me to, which I haven't heard of. I don't. That was the only one on this list I didn't know. I need to see A Ghost Story now. I'm
$14 million budget.
Jojo Rabbit.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
oh, it
That's
wasn't a
pretty
lot.
Small.
It wasn't a lot. I feel like almost though, like there are certain indies, like technically they're indies, but because of the star power attached
Yeah.
and like the marketing attached, it doesn't. Like
Yeah,
for me, like
he
a
didn't
true
need to
indie, like in my
do much.
day, indies had $5 for their marketing
Yeah,
budget,
right.
and you only heard about it from word of mouth. and,
Robert
like,
Rodriguez shot it for
Yeah.
3 sticks of gum.
and he did a guerrilla marketing campaign, and it was
Yeah,
all
yeah,
got better with word of
yeah.
mouth. It wasn't like Disney was like Jojo Rabbit, Oscar contender, you know. So it's like
this will win an Oscar. Like, yeah.
technically, I guess it's an indie, but
Yeah.
is it really though?
Jason Wojnar, I think Zach Wojnar's brother. Maybe
I was like, that has to be.
Sick.
That's not
Who's
a
to
common
say?
last
Is
name.
that true? I don't know.
Maybe.
They
It's
say
true now.
The
In our
Evil
canon
Dead
it is.
trilogy is up there for me. Mad Max also for sure. The Music Never Stopped is also an incredible indie drama few people ever talk about. I dare you to watch that one without crying like a baby. Challenge accepted. Also, Billy Jack
I
deserves a
easily
special
cry.
mention. Writer, director, and star Tom Laughlin, maybe, actually
Laughlin.
handled the distribution himself. His efforts caused it to be a massive success and phenomenon among the youth of the early 70s. I think your brother actually talked about that too. Yes,
Oh,
Billy
there's
Jack.
Zach. I was like, Yeah.
Billy Jack.
Mikey Mo brings up Rocky. All-time favorite.
Yeah.
There's an interesting story here. On top of everything, there's also so many. They wrote a lot more, but this is the part I'm going to read. On top of everything, there are so many meta-narratives going on. Stallone mortgaged his house as collateral for funding and trust from United Artists. Cinematographer Garrett Brown invented the Steadicam and actually tested it running up and down the iconic art gallery steps with his wife. That type of shot was then co-opted to appear in the montage sequence where Rocky runs up the steps himself. Likewise, Stallone and Carl Weathers trained for the fight for months, hoping that it'll pay off on camera as the most realistic fight scene in history. Nothing like that had ever been done. They weren't really necessarily paid for that choreography. They just believed in the vision. Similar to Princess Bride, where they just like wanted it to be the greatest sword fight since the Errol Flynn days.
Love the Rocky cinematic universe.
Rocky's
unreal.
Great, yeah. Tokyo Slam, patron saint of Easy Ally, or whatever the show's called. I could list thousands of movies here, theoretically, depending on your definition of indie films. Films produced outside the major 3/5 Hollywood
Tokyo
studios.
Slam's still calling Parasite indie.
Although, would you see now? I'm at the point where I'm like, do we still consider A24 indie?
No.
Indie Plus.
Because it's like
there was
Devolver.
the
Devolver doesn't feel like
no,
indie
but
anymore.
here's the thing.
No, that's what I'm saying. There's
Fox
the majors,
Searchlight,
there's the majors,
there's-
and there's the
yeah.
mini majors,
Yeah.
Right.
Which is like A24.
There was a word
like,
for those.
United Artists, MGM.
In the late 90s, early 2000s, I feel like there was a term for these.
Parasite,
Not art
15 million.
house, but like, like the little like boutique
love that.
studios like Fox Searchlight and shit.
Searchlight, yeah. I call those our gunning for our Oscar, baby. Like those are to give our prestige to our big tentpole arm, which makes the money for us to make these movies.
Parasite, yeah.
Yeah.
But Tokyo lists Parasite, Cold War, Blind Spotting.
Blind Spotting's so good.
I haven't seen it yet. I need to see
Really
it.
good. Oh, Short Term 12.
Embrace the
Good
Short-Term 12 is a
call.
good one. Florida Project, Embrace
And
the Service.
also
Skeleton
from the
Twins, Story
director
Body.
of Shang Chi,
Oh, really?
his breakup movie. Mm-hmm.
The Endless is great.
Short-Term
Sisters
12 is a
Brothers.
really important movie for like current Hollywood. I feel like a lot
What
of
is?
people. Short-Term
There are a
12.
lot of like
yeah.
younger
People
actors
for
like
sure.
got
People
a
broke
start.
the
Brie
hell out
Larson,
of that
right?
movie.
Like,
Yep.
yeah.
Lakeith Stanfield, I think, is in Short-Term 12
Yeah,
as
he
well.
is, yeah.
Brie Larson.
Like that is a snapshot for current Hollywood. Is Short-Term 12. I
Yeah.
always think of that as like
It's a touching movie. It's a sad movie.
it's good.
Conrad C., whose name I can never say.
Concio?
It's Swedish.
All right.
Dazed and Confused. Favorite movie of all time, so I have to go with that. But The Terminator deserves a mention for obvious reasons. And I also want to shout out Ghost Dog, Way of the Samurai.
Nice.
Yeah, all
That
right.
is a bold
Hell
choice.
yeah.
90s gem with Forrest Whitaker as a misplaced but very badass assassin. Killer soundtrack by RZA. I love Jarmusch's like love affair with RZA and Jizza.
I loved Only Lovers Left, or if we're talking about Jarmusch. I loved
I
Only
love
Lovers
Only
Left
Lovers.
Alive, and I was really hoping that I would really love The Dead Don't Die.
The Dead Don't Die
and
is
I hated it.
trash.
I hated it.
I love Jarmusch.
I
and The
hated
Dead
it. I
Don't
was like,
Die is
how
a
do you have this
horrible movie.
cast?
Yeah.
And then you have this movie, and you're doing this coming off of Only Lovers Left Alive, which is brilliant. Like,
Yeah.
you're a mystery to me.
Dude, Jarmusch is a nutcase.
Also,
Like,
I got to see his hair in person. I
Oh,
talked to him in person.
very
I
cool.
saw Only Lovers Left Alive at the Berlin premiere, and then after we all got bussed to this little club in like Berlin. And
Berlin
all
club.
of the bands from the soundtrack played, and like Jim
Squirrel?
Jarmusch was there. Yeah, it was a really weird night, but it was like very much a night. I was like, this is weird, but
I
also
love that
extremely
fucking
just like
movie, dude.
typical Berlin.
my girlfriend and I did, for Halloween a few years ago, we did I was Tilda and she was
Nice.
Tom Hiddleston, and we like recreated the poster where his head's on her shoulder. And it was, like,
Apparently, if you put Tom Hiddleston in a black wig, I'm in.
Oh, yeah.
Like, okay, like I'm in.
Yeah, yeah.
Is he broody? Oh, good.
Yeah.
Is he in a black wig? I'm in.
they
Nobody
also,
said Kronos. I'm offended.
Yeah.
Well, we
Super
still have-
offended.
We might
wants
get
to
there,
get
but
rid-
it's
yeah.
not in
No.
there. Spoilers.
No.
Conrad also mentioned Pi and Cube, which takes them back to their late teens and me back to the late teens, because like that's me.
Yeah.
I was just watching all that shit.
They're
Yeah.
redoing it. Cube.
They're redoing Cube.
Yep, redoing it.
I met that
Add it
director.
to the list.
What's his name? Natali. No, I can't remember his name, but I met him one time.
Vincenzo Natali.
Yes.
Did Cube? He did.
Yeah, I think so.
Nice. Hannibal episodes. A lot of good Hannibal
Yeah, yeah,
episodes.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Splice.
yeah, yeah.
I think he did too.
I never saw Splice, but I hear they like bang the monster.
It's a weird one. Yo, that. Fuck. I do not want to see it. The pig movie. The sheep movie. Sheep.
Oh,
With
Lamb. I'm like, just run through all the animals. The cow,
Pig, sheep, lamb, goat,
chicken.
cow. Frick!
What is lamb? I don't know.
It takes so much to disturb me. I have a strong stomach and a high tolerance.
There's a lot of movies and TV shows lately with like half human, half animal people.
It looks so disturbing.
It's a kid with a lamb's head.
Oh.
But like, how did that come to be?
But kind of horror, but kind of fantasy.
It looks disturbing.
Is it based on that book? There's a book called Lamb.
Everything's based on a book, honestly. If you look deep enough, like 80%.
Zach Wagner also shouts out Billy Jack, a low-budget hippie action movie about a half-Native American ex-Green Beret, Billy Jack, just a person who protects children and other living things. Sounds great. Budget was $800,000, but allegedly the director blew all that on the opening credits sequence.
All right, Zach, we can hash this out on Slack tomorrow.
Hilarious.
If you want a really surprisingly good movie for like a shoestring budget, The Headhunter came out a couple years ago. It's like horror fantasy.
Not Headhunters.
The Headhunter.
Good one.
Okay, Headhunters is great.
Yeah, it's The Headhunter.
Okay.
3 words. $30,000 budget.
Nice.
It's basically almost like a Skyrim or like Dragon Age like side quest, but like with a lot of monster killing. This is what mostly blew my mind. From the director of Thanksgiving. Yes, the horror movie where the turkey murders people.
No
and I was like,
way.
Yes, and he made this like amazing like dark fantasy horror like movie for $30,000.
The Headhunters.
Headhunter.
The Headhunter.
Singular. Yeah.
3 words.
Yes.
Not the Nikolai Coster-Waldau masterpiece.
Love that movie.
Do love that movie.
But if you want like to see like some really creative filmmaking for like a shoestring budget, The Headhunter is really interesting to watch. Just in the sense that you're like, man, like if you know the budget and you're watching it the whole time, you're like, how did they do that? I wonder how they did this.
Dude, there's some
I
of
love
those
that
movies
stuff.
where
I love
I'm
that
just
stuff.
like, yeah, like what?
I love that stuff. That's fun.
But yeah, we talked earlier about how Tom Laughlin personally supervised the re-release using television advertising and launching the film in a ton of markets at the same time, effectively inventing the blockbuster movie all in the service of his indie passion project. The movie isn't seen as indie since it's a martial arts vigilante story about a badass spiritual cowboy protecting hippie kids from bigots, but it's 100% the movie that Tom set out to make, and that's indie to me. Love that. I'm going to skip who's your favorite indie maker because who gives a shit. Anything else?
I'm adding 2 movies that because I did not see them on this list, and I feel like
a lot of my
your
favorites
audience
weren't
seems
on
like
here.
they're very like
Finger on the
well
pulse.
read, or well watched.
Yeah.
Movie people. 2 like very very indies from first time filmmakers or like very like early filmmakers that I watched in the past couple of years. Like I think about them all the time. One is The Vast of Night.
I loved that.
Which is
I loved that.
I annoyed the shit out of my friends because I watched it at Fantastic Fest way before it was released on Amazon Prime. So I saw it like 7, 8, 9 months before it was released last year on Amazon Prime. I was telling everybody about the movie. I'm like, there's this tracking shot, and like it's the first time
great.
I'm like, it's amazing. Like the actors are great, and like I interviewed them both, and they're like, okay, we get it.
The dialogue is so fun.
But that movie is basically like a throwback, like old school sci-fi, like built around like the trappings of like it's almost like a Twilight Zone kind of.
It feels like a
episode.
50s
Cool, yeah.
Twilight Zone. Yeah,
But
it's great.
Yeah, I
But there
remember you
are
loving it.
so
I
many
loved it.
amazing, like the cinematography is amazing, and the acting from the 2 main actors, like especially Jake Horowitz, the guy, because he plays a radio DJ, and he has that like mid-century, like 1950s, like that real rapid fire like cadence, like deep radio
Transatlantic,
like damn,
whatever.
like
Mid-Atlantic, whatever it's called.
he's
Love
it's
that.
so good, and it's like genuinely creepy, like the way it built.
It's a great movie.
So that one, and then another one
Throwing
that
it
I love, that I think about all the time, it's one of the most beautiful movies I've ever watched, and I don't think I'll ever be able to watch it again because it ripped my heart out. Was Issa Lopez, Tigers Are Not Afraid. It's a Mexican.
10 out of 10. Watched it last Halloween.
Thank you. Have you watched it again? I cannot.
I just
bring
watched it
myself to
once.
watch
I just watched it
again.
once.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
I'm so glad I watched this, but
Yeah.
I can never. It is.
Yeah, I was hyping that one up last
It's
year.
a movie. It's not her first movie, but it's like her breakout movie. Set in Mexico City, and it tells the story of like like orphans of Mexico City who've been orphaned by like the drug war of like the cartels. Okay. And they form this little like street gang, and they, to try to survive. And it's this dark fantasy because like the main protagonist is this little girl, and she's trying to find her mom, and she has this little like the little boy in the group has like a little tiger stuffed animal, and so it becomes their like mantra that like we're tigers and tigers are not afraid. And so it's like this weird like dark fantasy, but holy God, I like have not sobbed. So hard in a movie.
Really
just the premise sounds really intense.
But it's so well done. Like it's one of those movies where I'm like I wouldn't change like anything about this movie. So those are the two movies that if I can look at a movie and be like, I don't think I'd change a thing about this movie. Like I don't think I would. Like those are two movies in the last few years that really I'm like, yeah, these are like near perfect, like either like like beginner or like debut or like sophomore movies to me.
Yeah, I mean, someone brought up The Invitation, which reminds me of Coherence. Has a similar vibe. I like Coherence. It's a fun little movie. Obviously, like Soderbergh isn't an indie darling anymore, but he was in the beginning. But The Limey is like one of my faves. Yeah. I really like that. And then
like is Unsane an indie movie, even though it's Soderbergh filming on his phone?
Soderbergh like. I don't know. He retired from movies and then kept making movies. Like
he's like Stephen King retiring from writing. Yeah. Stephen's like, I'm retiring. You're like, you retired like 3 times. Yeah. And you just kept churning out like a novel every.
He's like,
why do they do that? It's so
because I don't know.
Maybe less people are looking at
just
him
to take
when they
pressure off. Yeah, who knows?
That and maybe like they just feel kind of burned out for a while, and then
well, Soderbergh wanted to like camera up TV after like he shot all of the Nick or whatever. It's just like who are you, dude? Yeah. But also Cachet by Michael Haneke. Movie's fucking crazy.
No one said Kronos, and it's one of my favorite Guillermo movies of all time. It's so
I still haven't seen it.
Don't get it spoiled because it's not. It's a twist on something, and it's so cool.
I like this movie.
What is this? What is this?
Because it's so Guillermo, and it's so cool. And
do we associate this with Guillermo? Is this like a traditionally like?
I'm just thinking.
This is the sign for Guillermo.
Yeah.
You mentioned The Invitation, which immediately made me think of The Guest.
Oh, I love The Guest! I love The
Isla's
Guest!
favorite actor of all time is Dan Stevens.
Well, it's my sister's favorite actor of all time. I love Dan Stevens.
I was like, all right, Dan Stevens, like another like generically attractive blonde guy, like whatever. And then I was like, watch The Guest. I'm like, all right,
He's
like
bonkers.
I get it. Like I'm in. Like I'm
The
in on
Guest
Dan
is so
Stevens.
interesting because the first time I watched it, right, I was like, what fucking tone are we going for?
Yeah, I'm like, is this a black comedy? I'm like, is this a horror? Is this a thriller?
And then I watched the Red Letter Media review where they talk with the writer-director or whatever, writer maybe. And like, then I rewatched it and I was like, oh, this movie's genius. Like, this is amazing. The Guest, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, my dad loves The Guest.
The Guest
I always
is
love when
fucking
movies,
tight.
like you go and think it's going to be one thing and then you're like, I don't know if this movie's working for me because I'm not quite like, is it that this movie doesn't know what it wants to be, or is it that I went in with preconceived notions about what I thought it was going to be and now I'm tripped up, and then I'm like, and if you can like let go of that, then you're like, okay, I'm on board with what you're doing. Like I see, like we're on the same wavelength now. Like now I get you. Yeah.
To wrap up real quick, I'll take a few of these. I like to put these in because I think that our viewers come up with fun questions. Anything else you'd like us to discuss? Happy Gaming says, we hear about Hollywood taking indie films and remaking them all the time, but what are some Hollywood movies that you think would benefit from an indie remake, and how do you think they'd change? So like taking something with a massive, huge budget and then redoing it for like $1 million.
We kind of talked about The Green Knight. Like The Green Knight is a blueprint for how to do Arthurian legend in Hollywood, because Hollywood, the last few like Arthurian legend movies they've tried to do have bombed because
Guy Ritchie. I knew that'd trigger her.
Guy Ritchie
I had a feeling there.
You know what? Actually, I think the thing about, I didn't hate the movie. It frustrated me because there were so many good pieces. Like I almost would rather
really
watch.
like Guy Ritchie.
I'd almost rather like
which one? Which movie?
King
Arthur.
Arthur.
Oh, the
Legend of
King Archie
Sword.
Guy Ritchie.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'd almost rather walk out of a movie like hating it than walking out being frustrated.
Is that the
you
Keira
can
Knightley one?
see,
No.
like, no.
The Keira Knightley one where they made her
Charlie
boobs
Hunnam.
bigger on the fucking.
No, that was
poster?
that was King Arthur, but I actually liked that one.
There's a
I
director's
just remember
cut,
the poster.
right?
Yeah.
King Arthur has the director's
And the
cut.
ice? Don't
Yeah,
they end up
yeah.
on like a lake,
Yeah.
a frozen lake? I saw that one a long time
But
ago.
Legend of the Sword was just frustrating because you could see all the studio meddling and you could see it was two different scripts smashed together. But there were some really good ideas, and I'm like, there's like the seeds of a really cool movie in here. I felt like that when I watched Man of Steel. I'm like, I can see, or Batman vs Superman. I can see the bones of a better like direct. Man
So
of
many
Steel
movies
sequel.
lately I've had that feeling. I'm like, I see what you wanted
They're all
to
the
do.
franchise starters, and
Yeah.
that's the thing is that
Yeah.
studios, because these movies are so expensive and they're so they need to be, you know, all 4 quadrants, and so they end up just watering them down to like this generic
Lowest common
story.
denominator, yeah.
When it's, and then they try to like set up all these sequels before they've even told the story, which is one of the reasons why I really liked Free Guy, because it was always meant to be a standalone
Nice.
initially. So
For
like
now.
it tells a whole story. Well, they already greenlit the sequel, but like
Yeah,
it
they
tells a
did,
whole story. Like
But,
if
like-
it never got a sequel, like it would be fine.
That's how franchises are meant to start. Is
But
like
they're
you
not
do the
now.
first one, right?
Purge.
Now they do it
Yeah.
with
Purge.
Now they do it with like the foregone conclusion. Like this has to start a franchise.
And then like 50% of it is like unfinished story because
Right.
it's like all
It's
set up
just
and you're
trash.
like, can you just like, yeah. So
Yeah, and I think that's another part of why I'm getting so frustrated, because every single online article is about the sequel or the next season or the ending before the thing is even out. Like it'll be the week it's coming out, and every article will be like, "Oh, the sequel, the ending explained," or like,
Right,
"Tell us
right,
about
right.
the next one."
but
and
that's
it's like,
what people
let
search
me.
for,
that's
which
what
is
people
frustrating.
want.
Like,
Yeah,
we don't want to be writing these things. Like, I would love to be able to like do other stuff, but it's like, man, like people have just gotten into this like cycle of like
Yeah.
nobody sits in the moment.
Nobody.
Yeah.
It's something anymore. It's like they watch it, they consume it, and they're like, okay,
Next.
on to the next. Yeah.
It is insanity.
Watch.
I can't
There's
keep up.
there's a really good Veritasium video right now
Mm-hmm.
about clickbait that was really good. Also, we are bad at our jobs. Like we should be doing things
Horrendous.
way differently. But anyway, to answer your
yeah, that's a
question,
good
we don't know.
yeah, that's a really good question. I mean,
What? Yeah. What?
Fast and the Furious for me.
Ooh, yeah.
Um,
Actually, like
I love the original. I love Tokyo Drift. I love the small scale street
Yeah.
it's
racing.
gone in 60 seconds.
Yeah. But I mean, like
I love
doing
that shit.
I was like, there was an indie. It was called Point Break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like doing car chases with like no money.
Yeah.
Some of those are the best car chases ever.
Yep.
See, I always feel like the best like movies from the 80s and 90s that Hollywood should be remaking aren't like the huge classics and blockbusters. They're the ones that were like either the culty ones or like that just weren't very good because like either the technology wasn't there or like it was kind of like low budget. But so that's an interesting question. So I feel like the ones that would be best as indie movies would be the ones where it was maybe not a like Mortal Engines. Like there was so much potential.
Engines.
There
That
was
movie had
so
such
much
potential.
That's another one that bummed my wife out because she read the book. She really liked the book.
I enjoy it. I saw it with my dad, so that gave it points. But like, I was like, "There's a cool movie in here."
That I walked away from that so max. So like, there's so much potential. Like, there's such a cool world. Like, I like this world. So
Ooh, that makes me think like all these Ridley Scott nightmares. All of those need to go back to like Alien budget.
Go back.
Prometheus.
Fuck
to start.
Prometheus. Fuck Alien
back to
Covenant.
start.
He has too much money, and there's too much like weird his like old man Christianity in it.
Oh, and The Hobbit. Let's make that indie.
Sure.
Yeah.
I like.
That's another
And
one I
one
can give a
movie.
free pass though.
And
you were talking
one
about
fucking movie.
You were talking about COVID free passes. Like the Hobbit production has
True.
has just
Nightmare.
a pass.
Yeah.
A free pass.
If you see that picture of him like just going like losing his mind, you're like, okay, I get what happened here.
Yeah.
It's not good. Fine.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Alita Battle Angel also would have been a really interesting like $20 million movie.
That was another one that was like better than I thought it was gonna be.
Cut Hugo out, and it's a great movie.
Sequel, please. I'm dying. I'm begging.
I don't think
for
it did well enough.
I know.
It did okay, but it
One
didn't
can
do.
dream. One can hope.
Yeah.
It did okay, but not enough for like that budget because the
Yeah,
technology
yeah.
required for that movie like boost that budget like crazy.
Little flea.
Hollywood hasn't cracked the code on manga and anime yet.
No.
It's like I feel like video games.
What are you talking
and
about? Ghost in the Shell live action was great.
Anime and like manga are like where superhero movies were like a couple decades ago.
Yeah.
They couldn't quite figure out how to crack that code. But I am hopeful
John Chu's
that
Akira?
the My Hero Academia live action movie coming up. They just got
I hope they don't.
Shinsuke Sato to direct it. And he did he's done, like Hero, he's done
Oh, okay.
Kingdom.
I thought this
Or not
exact
Kingdom,
same thing with Death Note because it's like, oh, Death Note. This is going to be it. This is going to be the anime one. It's the
How can you screw this story
Yeah,
up?
and
then
the
they
director-
screw
I heard it
up.
was awful.
Yeah.
What if they
I
don't?
forget, the director's like a big horror director. I
What
was
if
like
they
stoked
don't
that he was doing it.
botch Cowboy Bebop? Is that possible?
Only if they get Keanu, like that rumor was 20
No,
years
dude,
ago.
they're doing it. John Cho is in it.
John Cho.
So John Cho's doing Cowboy Bebop.
Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah,
It's
which is-
done.
what-
Principle's over.
Yeah.
Who's doing Akira?
Nobody.
Nobody.
No,
Well,
I thought John Cho was doing that.
No.
There have been 1,000 Akira
Taika's
rumors.
kind of still working
Okay,
on
okay.
it. Taika.
The Akira thing is.
Knew there was
Yeah.
So John
Taika's-
Cho's doing Cowboy Bebop.
What they need to
Yes.
do is a Berserk.
That's
That would be
awesome.
fucking crazy.
Yo, Cowboy Bebop could be sick.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Searching
Like, what
was
if
sick.
it
I'm
is?
hoping.
Searching was great. I
He's
love
not
John Cho.
directing it. He's in it.
He's just
Spike.
in it.
He's
yeah,
so,
he's Spike.
like, that's
He
the
looks
thing.
great. His hair looks perfect.
He's, but that's why I have hope with. I don't really necessarily love like My Hero Academia. It's a little bit too like young for me.
I have never
but
seen it.
they got like a Japanese director doing his English language debut who has directed multiple live action, very successful live action versions of anime before. I'm like, this might be the magic
one.
formula. If you can get a Japanese director who understands like how to translate that medium to the screen.
To me, like
with like Hollywood's backing, like maybe that's the key that will unlock it.
To me,
I don't
like
know.
bare minimum entry level is like, are the characters the correct race? Like, did you whitewash this? Because if you did, fuck off. Right? Like, at least Cowboy Bebop, from what I've seen, like everyone is the same like race that they are in the cartoon.
Yes,
More or
I would
less?
say that yes, but I think the thing with a lot of anime that this is where like lines get blurred, and I'll probably get shit for this, but in anime you
The
have
style
a lot
of
of
drawing,
the style
it's-
of
yeah, it's
drawing.
hard
they,
to tell
they
sometimes.
purposely westernize
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
and so it's like it can be really hard there. But I'm like I defer to like if they have a Japanese name, maybe don't cast the
Probably
right actress.
Japanese.
Yeah.
Like maybe just don't.
Yeah.
do
Cowboy
that.
Bebop is a weird case because it's like
Yeah.
Spike Spiegel. Like,
Yeah,
that's a
it's
German
like
name.
in space. Yeah, so
Yeah.
you're like, all right, like that can basically be like whatever.
At least with Jet Black, they made it really clear
I
because that's his name.
would really love to see like a horror version, like a hard R horror version of like Hellsing.
Dude,
Sure.
I was going to mention
Yeah.
Hellsing Unlimited or Ultimate earlier because I want to
And
watch
Hellsing.
that version. I haven't seen that one.
Basically anything with vampires, I'm in.
I think
like-
about him saying police girl like every couple of weeks. Him just going police girl. And I'm like, oh.
Like,
I'm like, am I into vampires? Like, what's going on?
Oh, I've always been from the time I've been a kid. Like I've been like, bite me, I don't care.
Yeah.
yeah.
But like a dude vampire? I mean, he's pretty femme.
Did you see Bliss?
What?
Did you see Bliss?
No. That sad cartoon from 100 years ago?
A movie. Never
Oh!
mind. An indie movie.
Speaking of going all the way back to the beginning, that's another movie I've seen recently that I really loved. Blood Red Sky.
Oh my god, yeah. Netflix just came
Vampires
out. So sick.
and new and awesome and
Snakes
not
on a
what-
plane?
and
Oh,
not
the
what you-
airplane
Vampires on a
one.
plane.
The airplane one?
Yeah,
Snakes
I
on a
saw
plane,
the
vampires on a plane.
I wanted to watch that.
I saw the trailer. I was
Is
like,
it good?
yeah,
Sophia was out on it.
really good.
I'm like,
I saw the
wanna
trailer.
watch
I'm
it.
like,
I forgot to bring that.
I'm like, vampire mom goes full tiger mom to protect a plane. Like her
Sounds
son gets a
great.
plane full of terrorists. Yeah,
That sounds great.
but it like
That's the
it's
American dream
surprisingly
right there.
emotional, and it goes some places. I was like, oh, okay. I thought it was gonna be like kind of cheesy, like Snakes on a Plane. No, friend. It's like
Real
Snakes on a
deal.
Plane was a
it's
fucking
like
letdown.
brutal. It's like some brutal kill scenes and some really like it goes like real dark places.
Collider
it's like,
has a really good article I love
Yeah.
about that Snakes on a Plane was the progenitor of like memeing movies. Really good article on
might have been.
Collider
It might
right
have been.
now
yeah,
about
it's yeah.
Yeah.
I encourage anyone to seek that out. The Collider Snakes on a Plane article. It's really
Well,
good.
because that was the
wrote
first
that?
one I remember where like
it was before
the
social
ad
media.
campaign like started rewriting the movie.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
It's so fascinating.
Because it was going to be a more serious movie,
Right.
and people started dragging the shit out
Yeah.
of it. It was never going to be named Snakes on the Plane.
Well, and
Yeah.
then someone
and
on
then they were
Twitter was like,
"This is what people call it."
it's just
so that's
gonna
what we're going
be
with. Yeah,
Samuel Jackson saying,
good.
"I'm tired of these motherfucking snakes on this motherfucking plane."
like that title was supposed to be just like its working temporary title, and then everybody started calling it that, and they were like, "That's the title," and it worked.
But it's also like, how are you making that movie and it
wrote that?
wasn't a ridiculous
Oh,
comedy? Like what?
Vinny wrote that. I was like, that sounds like a Vinny article.
Vinny's.
Vinny Mancuso. I was like, that definitely sounds like an article Vinny would write. It was
Vinny
Vinny.
Mancuso likes Gotham, and that's why I know that.
Jesse
Right.
Blue wanted me to let you know, Huber,
I've gone extremely drunk
That-
with Vinny before. Just throwing it out there.
they're on season 5 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and all they can
Love
say
it.
is, "Whoa."
Oh, that's such
One
an
of the
uneven
greats.
show.
One of the greats.
It was such a roller coaster. It was like it was the one show I watched where like it was the only show I've ever seen.
Careful.
Where like I loved it,
Okay.
but like you have like a half a season was like
Well,
some
I
of the
think it's
best
trash.
writing they'd ever done, and then another half of the season was like trash. And it was like I don't understand what's happening. It was like before this Marvel movie came out, peak. After this Marvel movie came out, like lost the
Season
plot.
1, or what are you referring
I'm just saying
to?
like it's just such an uneven.
Huber's getting upset.
No. I was just
It's like rubbing
because
your eye.
for me the show only got better, and then obviously peaked with season 4. But I think 5, 6, 7 are still solid.
Amazing.
Did you like
amazing
the-
characters though.
Did you like the back half of Vikings? I want
Of
you
the
and
final
Sophia
season?
to talk about
of the final
Vikings.
season.
The last 3 seasons, the back half of the whole series.
Went downhill at a certain point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that was what Sophia kind of
Yeah,
said.
and
too.
the last 10 episodes of the final season was such a letdown.
She liked the very end though.
It was cool, but
My
it's like
girlfriend's Norwegian.
it's
so she-
not what you want when you're committed to a show for a long period of your life. Like 7 years you're watching a show, you get attached to certain things and characters. And for the end of the show to be about something completely different, that's not really a spoiler, but
Yeah,
definitely
yeah.
shifts. And it's like,
Yeah.
what the hell?
I heard that.
Looking at you, Supernatural finale.
Oh,
Although that was that was COVID's fault. I can't blame Supernatural for that. But man, 15 years, like it sucked that like that show lasted for 15 years, and the year they finally were like, all right, we're done, was the year COVID hit, and everything got screwed up. Like
It's devastating.
But like X-Files did that, Fringe did that. Like it's just end when you
X-Files is another one that's
end
like
at the good, like just end. Oh,
no
That's
one
the
to
thing
leave.
is Vikings-
No one to leave. Like no
Yeah.
one to like
Yeah.
wrap it up and leave.
Vikings
Like,
shows
ended
used to be
well.
really bad at
season
that.
7. Just stop.
stop
Nothing
after
after
7.
season 7 exists in my mind. In the X-Files.
Tokyo Slim wants people to watch Strawberry Mansion. It's a low-budget fantasy sci-fi romance, kind of in the vein of pre-Green Hornet Michelle Gondry.
Yeah.
Sounds cool.
I'm in.
I'll take the rec from Tokyo Sun.
Brittany Fuller wonders, do you prefer the a la carte at-home viewing to paying an extra fee to a streaming service? Do you think that we will get more movies released in this way in the future, or will paying a premium on a subscription service be the norm?
Oh God, this is my work life.
This is my nightmare.
This is what I think
Hey,
about
we don't
every
have to
day.
answer
No,
it.
this is my living, breathing nightmare.
No, so
You don't like watching shit at home,
For
Huber?
me, I prefer just paying for streaming service because I have to watch so much stuff.
Yeah.
That I like, and like even just like having to like, I'll screen something and then I'm writing an article. I'm like, shit, I forgot that. Like what happened in that scene.
Right.
So I need to like look it up real quick. But you can only pay like you. I'm like, I'm not paying for this just to like look up like a 30-second scene.
Right.
So streaming services for me is the way to go. 110%. Like we are going to start getting more stuff moving to streaming, especially because now you see all the studios are forming their own proprietary streaming
I
services.
just watched Green Knight on
as well as the
Screening Room from A24, a
networks,
one-night only experience.
And so we're going to start seeing that more. But I think we'll see that more often with the smaller budget movies. Tentpoles still have to go to theater. Tentpoles still need theatrical releases to make
Yeah.
money. They
Yeah.
need the global theatrical release. They need the merchandising. They need the momentum that the theatrical release builds up for the home entertainment
IMAX,
release and
baby.
streaming release.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to see changes, but it's not like theaters are going away. Like I think we're just going to see more tentpoles staying in theaters and some of the smaller stuff maybe moving to streaming services. And I also think a good thing though too, and this is kind of what I'm hoping, is I'm hoping that we'll start seeing more theaters moving to something more like the Alamo Drafthouse model,
Yeah.
where they really make it an event.
Yeah.
Like they have theme nights, they have like event movies, they have a lot
They're
of
a
like
nightmare for the kitchen staff.
yeah, like food and drink. Like
can't
they
handle
have
that
like
stuff.
fun
I love
stuff.
Alamo Drafthouse,
They have like
dude.
fun stuff around it, and it's not just you don't just go in with a bunch
Ally
of like
McBeal bathrooms.
And they crack down on assholes in the theater.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, and I think that's a big thing too, where you're not just going in to get like shitty stale popcorn and like a
Right,
kid screaming
right.
and like somebody talking on their phone. Like it's
I
a
pretty
whole
much only want to go to
experience.
Alamo anymore.
It
My
respects movies.
safest place in the entire world is not open right now. Arclight Hollywood.
I was like ArcLight Hollywood.
Yep. I only
Cinerama?
like seeing the
The
last
ArcLight
show.
that used to be by me is just gone now.
It's crazy. Yeah, I don't like
Yeah.
food in
Empty.
the theater. I don't like people in the theater. I need to sit in the very back corner on the
Front and
last
back, too.
show on a Monday.
I get really spoiled now because I screen so much stuff ahead of time with like other journalists who are all real respectful.
Oh,
so like
yeah.
when I go into like a normal screening, especially like opening weekend, I'm like, oh, like it's like that. I
It's
was thinking that
chaos.
meme of
yeah.
of Ryan Gosling in it's the one with like I think Steve Carell's in it, but he's just like it's the meme of him like the glass and he like doing the up and down look. Like that's me walking to like a theater now with like the normies. I'm like,
Yeah.
ugh. Like commoners.
talk.
That's when it's like going.
So much.
Dude,
Yeah.
it was funny when I moved to LA like 11, 12 years ago, whatever. First going to like the Landmark or the ArcLight or whatever, like it was the fancy theater. Nobody talked. Everyone was really respectful. That's not the case.
It's not the case anymore.
Especially after COVID, when everyone forgot how to be a fucking human being.
Yeah.
But like,
Oh my God.
even like the last like 5-6 years, it's like people just talk now in
It
the
is
ArcLight and stuff.
insane.
I'm just like,
They'll
what
be
the
checking
fuck?
their phones. They'll be
Right.
like,
It's
and I'm like,
insane.
why
I'm
are you
like,
even
leave.
here?
Why are you even
Yeah,
here?
I'm like,
Why
if
are
you
you
don't
even
want to
here?
be here,
Why are you even here?
leave.
Like I will sit.
It's
and,
so
like if I'm
disrespectful.
That's
watching
why I
a
go to
movie
Alamo
at
now.
home, I'll mess with my phone. If I'm at a theater, like I'm watching the movie.
That's
and the
why I'm
phone's
so.
away.
That's why I'm so scared. Is because those people are keeping good people at home.
Yeah.
Like Brad will not go to the theater anymore because he got fed up with just non-stop people checking their phones,
Yeah.
out of control. Even at something like the ArcLight that
Yeah.
is so hardcore about it. That's not even in really a busy shopping center. Like if you're at the ArcLight Hollywood, you're
Yeah,
going
yeah.
there to see
You're
a
going to the
movie.
ArcLight
Part of that
Hollywood.
too is
Yeah.
why.
What the
Hollywood's
frick?
a fucking shit
Part
show.
of that
though.
too is why. Yeah, like you're choosing Hollywood. Like
Yeah, Hollywood's a nightmarish
course.
hellscape.
So
Worst
It's a
place
good
on
theater,
earth.
though. It's
El
a good
Capitan
theater.
is great. I do love El Capitan.
El Capitan is cute.
But like that's why
Chinese
ArcLight
ground-
or not
ground and
ArcLight,
Chinese,
Alamo Drafthouse is so smart because they built like respect for movies
Yeah.
and the actual process of watching a movie right into their whole
the whole vibe.
like fabric, the whole
Yeah.
vibe. Like, and they're not afraid to like shame people, kick people out.
It says
That's what I
before
would
the
do.
movie.
Other
it says
movies,
before the
yeah,
movie.
we're
It's
like,
like
other
if you talk,
movies-
if you
Yeah.
text, you will
Yeah.
be kicked out.
Where, like
If
other theaters
I-
like real lax, they don't want to lose movie, they don't want to get like bad press, and it's
Yeah.
like they need to. Studios
It's-
badly need to or theaters badly need to reinvent themselves by
Yep.
cracking down on that
they
stuff
won't.
and making it more than they need to make it an experience. You can't just go into a movie now and watch it. You can do that at home with your surround sound system. They need
Like,
to offer more.
As soon as I got vaccinated, I went to go see A Quiet Place 2 with my dad. And I was like, hey, this is my first movie back to the theater.
Yeah.
And it was not great. There was a scratch on the screen. The AC was like super rickety. And I was like, what the hell are you doing after all this time? Like, your
they-
business.
Well, they also
they
were
didn't
hemorrhaging
make
money.
money for a
Like, they
year
were
and
also
a half.
hemorrhaging money.
But then stay like there's got to be some in between. Like if you're not providing a good service, then like go out of business. Is that too harsh? Is that too
It's like
harsh?
Adam Sandler in Uncut Gems.
Like, I
just die.
Yeah, like
If you're not gonna do it right, just die.
because like I get that they were not making any money and they're going bankrupt and broke, but like also doesn't the service need to be?
I love this conversation. I have to pee so bad. We're gonna do a game and
Yeah.
then be done. Okay. Tokyo Slim
We
says,
should do the theaters next episode.
just yell at each other about theaters.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
We'll stretch that for an hour. Tokyo Slim's back with a game. Indieception. I'll name the indie movie. You tell me what actor,
I'm
known
so
for
bad
being
at
in
this
indies,
shit.
directed this indie. Don John.
All I can think of is
Joseph Gordon-Levitt,
Joseph Gordon-Levitt,
yeah.
but he's not the director.
Isn't he?
It's ScarJo.
No, he's
I thought he
the-
directed it.
Julian.
Well, you can't look it up.
Oh.
It's a game.
Fuck games.
I don't
I
know.
world-
So I don't know any of these.
In a world I've never even heard of.
No.
you
Sunny,
can't do this
No.
stuff to somebody with ADHD because this will like burrow into my brain and it will
Sunny,
like
I want to say is
legitimately, like,
Al
bother me.
Pacino, but is that wrong? Tokyo, I don't know what any of these movies are. The Warzone, Animal Factory, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know any. Zero.
We fail your game.
Complete zeros.
Oh no, he was a director too.
Gordon-Levitt.
Okay, you were right. Yeah. In a World is Lake Bell.
Oh, really? Oh, it's the trailer voice lady.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yep. Yeah.
world.
She's great. She's funny. I love her from Children's Hospital. Sunny.
Let's see. Wait, did Lake Bell also direct In a World too?
She must
Where
have.
people don't talk in movie theaters.
It was back up there.
People are happy.
IMDb changed the way it's laid out.
Oh,
And it sucks now.
if you want to get me on a rant, just get me started on how Box Office Mojo and IMDb changed their. Oh yeah, okay.
Directed by
What's
Lake
Lake Bell
Bell.
do? Okay,
All right.
Sunny. Let's look up Sunny.
Just looking them up.
We're just looking them up.
Just looking them up. Tokyo
Fuck you,
Slim.
Tokyo Slim.
You win.
Jesus.
Trying
Goodness.
to like. It's like no, like basically,
Sunny Bones or Sunny
basically
Nine.
IMDb gave me like 7 like options and none of them were the right one, and it's like I'm not giving you any more. Fuck you.
The very first thing I would do if I won the lotto is build my
Warzone.
own IMAX.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Straight
I would.
up.
Well, I'd buy a house that would have a movie theater in it.
I would build the IMAX before the house.
The housing market is fucked up.
The
right
house comes after the IMAX.
now. thank you everyone for being a patron.
I wanted to say Warzone, but I'm like, no, that's Punisher.
I was thinking Punisher
Yeah, I was
Warzone
like, that's not
this
right.
entire
No.
time.
Tim Roth.
Yes.
Oh, Tim Roth. Okay.
Then
Tim
Animal-
Roth, Tin Star. Tim Roth.
Animal
Patreon.com/Easy
Which
Allies.
color is he? Is he Mr. White?
$7 and
I
up
think-
tiers.
Pink.
Here in the
Pink.
film.
Tim Roth, pink. Dude, fucking pink.
Animal
Pink.
Factory is.
You're not gonna die.
Money.
You're not gonna fucking die. Say the fucking
die.
words.
Okay, Steve Buscemi is Animal Factory. I was like, I know Eddie Furlong's in this because this was.
Everyone be cool. It's a robbery.
Are you cool, honey bunny? We have a shout out tier.
Yo,
The
best
$250
Tarantino movie. What is it? Don't
Shut
even
up.
think. What is it right now? Quick.
Huh?
None of them.
Wow.
best Tarantino
No, not a
movie?
Tarantino fan.
I don't know. Pulp Fiction.
When I was like 21 and thought that blood and gore for the sake of blood and gore and ripping off every other culture and appropriating it was
He's
cool.
definitely like a film student.
He's not a film student. He's a film guy. All capital letters.
right.
I've had
Really good movies.
I've
good
had,
movies.
Basically, I've had too many dudes like Tarantino in my classes in grad
Yes.
school,
Don't
and I've
let
had
those
and I have
people
too many dudes
ruin
like
it
that.
for you.
He's
They're
ruined
not.
it for me.
They're not Tarantino.
There are definitely some dudes like that.
and
in
there's
my
been too
film
many
school.
dudes like that are in my industry as colleagues that are like they don't call them movies, it's cinema.
Cinema.
It's I recreate things. I homage. No, you misappropriate. You take martial arts and you rip off kung fu movies and Hong Kong action movies and then shit all over Bruce Lee's legacy. So
Yeah, that pissed me off. That was
Yeah.
dumb. Whatever.
apparently you're hitting a lot of things and just like
$250
Fire me
tier is our shout out tier. So shout outs to El Thanis, Greg the Dark Knight Kettering, Caleb, Togi Crawford, Esdocal, and Nick. Shout out.
hello people. I don't know.
But yeah, thank you to our special guest. This was really
Thank
fun.
you. Sorry I talk so
No,
much.
this was awesome. I love
you guys
this.
you were like, there's no real like timetable or script. I was like, oh dear. I was
I
like,
love
that could be
this.
bad.
We had a great time.
Maybe one day I'll rewatch The Green Knight. Maybe, but
I
like
think you'd
knowing,
like it a lot more.
Knowing the insights.
Let's read the
Watching
poem
it-
and then we'll
the
watch
poem's
it.
actually again. The poem's really.
The poem's
funny.
really good.
Honestly,
really
though,
funny.
the poem is like mandatory before you see it. Truly,
I think it's just a different experience.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think
In
it's a very
fact,
different.
because
think-
when I came out of it without any knowledge of the poem or anything, I was just like,
The movie's a
what?
success
think if
because it makes you curious about
I think
the
if
poem.
you're
Sure,
good
sure,
about
sure.
like, I see. I think a lot of modern audiences see, and this was the
Here,
thing.
you
Like
guys just
before
keep
the
going. I'm
before
gonna
the movie came out,
the bathroom.
I was like,
Keep doing the podcast.
I don't care about Green Knight enough.
it's like the one thing that I think is that it's going to be hurt by how ambiguous it is.
It's
because
so
I can
ambiguous.
and
I can't buy into
And
that.
it was kind of marketed as more of a like. I was like, I can see people like general audiences that don't know the poem going into this thinking it's going to be like a typical like King Arthur like swords and
don't watch
shield,
trailers.
swords and shield like clashy kind of like fight movie. And it's not that. It's like a meditative, man
Definitely.
versus nature versus self spiritual journey. I was like, I can see like general audiences being like swords, hell yeah, and then going and being like, that sucks.
Dragons.
Yeah,
Where are
like,
the dragons?
Where are the dragons?
Where are the knights?
Where's Daenerys?
Where is Daenerys?
Going
Wait, so one more time though, why can his head not come off at the end? For real.
because that would just be completely shitty writing. It would make the entire 2 hours before that
Yeah.
meaningless.
Yeah. But that's been done before, right?
Doesn't mean it's good.
Yeah, but does it mean it's wrong?
Yeah.
Like,
It doesn't mean it's wrong. You can read it that way. It's just like you could probably assume that like not to get into politics, you could probably assume that at some point Donald Trump will like do the right thing, but probably not.
probably not.
Probably not. So like,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could interpret his, statement like that. I guess you could read it like that, but probably it's not how he means it. So, I mean,
Because like the way it was framed too, I was just like, okay, he would rather die than.
are we still podcasting? By the way,
think so.
I was like, are we still like on?
Yeah,
live?
because I thought he would rather die than like live a life of shame. So he came to accept that he would rather die. So then I was like, okay, then now he's
and then
gonna
he
die.
took the belt off. That was the thing holding him back, because
Yeah.
it was about accepting his death. It was about being brave and honorable and accepting his death.
Yeah.
And the reason why he had that vision was because he was still wearing the belt, which was the magical protection.
Yeah.
And so he knew that like if I don't face this like like on my own, like without tricks, without a crutch, without this like magical thing to, if I don't face it like a man, it's going to make me bitter. It's going to turn me into this terrible person. And so that's when he removes the girdle and he passes the test. Then it's different in the poem. In the poem, he doesn't take it off
because he came to the realization.
Yeah,
because the Green Knight was hired by his mom.
Exactly. In the poem, he doesn't take the belt off. And
I would have never known that if it were not for the poem. The whole like
it's based on a poem.
Hiring, I just needed to read it. I needed to read it before.
Well, in the poem, it's Morgan Le Fay just fucking with
King Arthur. She's just being petty. She's literally just being petty.
Yeah.
Like those context points,
but
I would have been on a whole nother level of it.
In the poem, though, he actually doesn't take the belt off, and like he keeps it on, and then the Green Knight basically is like fucking with him, and like he does like the 3 like feint, and he like makes fun of him because like Goblin flinches, and he makes
he's like,
he makes fun of him in the poem like he does in the movie. And then he like does the second feint, and then he does the third one. He just nicks him a little bit in the back of the neck, and basically tells him like that's for lying. And then Gawain's like all ashamed. He's like, "You're still wearing the belt." And Gawain gets all mad, and he like throws the belt at him. And then
so he has the scar for like shame.
Yeah,
right? To, like,
no, it's not the scar. He carries the belt with him for the rest of his life. And so basically, because in the poem, his test is he basically has to learn he's not perfect.
Yeah.
Because he has like such a high standard for himself that basically his test is to learn like you're a man. Like nobody's perfect except for God. Like you're fine. And
the poems are also like pretty Christian.
And the Green Knight tells him like your only sin was like loving life. Like that's not a sin. Like you wanted to live. Like you're fine. Stop holding yourself to this insanely high standard. You've passed the test. You're still like literally like the best knight ever. Like you're fine. And then Goblin's like, all right, but then he still wears the belt for the rest of his life. Like the girdle is like a mark of shame to remind himself of like falling from grace. So it's like his test in the poem is that he's already like ideal, and he has to learn that he's like here, like he's never gonna be here, like that's God.
Yeah.
And then it's the opposite in the movie where this Goblin is like, he's like, I'm a dirtbag. Like I don't even know if I have it in me to get to like here.
Yeah, he doesn't even believe.
And I'm supposed to be like here, and I'm like kind of like scraping bottom right now, and so like. To me, I read it as like it's not even a test to see if like there's greatness in him, or like how it's not even a test for like him to get to that greatness. It's like at this point, I'm not even sure there's greatness in him. Like he's literally just figuring out like, am I even that kind of guy? So so it kind of inverts the poem.
So in the movie, it's like his mom just believes in him and like wants to prove it to him that he maybe has it in him, or like maybe to find out.
Yes, that's a softer version of interpreting it, which you can totally interpret that way, but it's also Morgan Le Fay. So I also like, you can also interpret it, which I kind of almost like this version better, of almost like the way like a mother bird will like just kick its chick out of a nest and be like, fly or die.
Find out,
like, fly or die, fucker. Like either you're going to find your wings all the way down or you're going to hit the ground, and either way, like you're weak as shit, and like I have 3 more.
Right.
Like, so, like, sorry, you were, like, the weak link and you're dead. And so
she's got her dank witch chicks with her.
I kind of almost view this a little bit as, like, Morgan Le Fay being like, all right, you got to get out of the nest.
She's sick of it.
And I hope you survive, and I'm going to help you a little bit along the way. But if you die...
She kind of says that at the beginning.
Like, you weren't worthy, you know.
When she's like, I don't feel like partying, you know. I mean, obviously she's going to her thing, but that also is just like, I don't want to take your shit anymore. Like, you're out drinking all night. Like, you smell like wine. Like, come on.
I read that as her not wanting to go into the Christian celebration. But yes, but like when she was like, you can tell where he's like, Mom. She's like, when are you gonna be a knight? And he's like, I'm just figuring things out. And she's like,
gap year or whatever.
Yeah. So I definitely read that as like Morgan Le Fay being like, get out.
Yeah.
Get out of the house.
I think that was the director's mom's.
You're 35.
Was that thing?
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's the only part I read about, just like outside of the movie. Was obviously the poem, but then that the director was like, changed some things with the mom. I started writing about my mom, and then this kind of happened.
It was really interesting that he said when he first started editing this, he actually didn't like it. He didn't like this movie.
Oh, really?
And it was very different. And then he like took some time off. Like he stepped away from it because he felt like he was like fighting it. And then like COVID happened and everything, and he's like, well, all right, I need to get back to like editing this. And he came back.
That's the life I want.
He had like a completely different like mindset.
COVID will do that.
Which I don't know if he had like a better or like worse mindset, but whatever like he had been dealing with before when he was trying to edit it the first time, like he wasn't dealing with anymore. So he just came to it like new eyes and a new mindset, and he found it was just like easier for him. And then it ended up being one of his favorite movies he's ever done because he wrote it, directed, and edited it like all himself. So I'd be really interested to see, like even unfinished, like just partly, like what that first cut looked like.
Yeah.
Like what that would have been like.
A commentary track would be very interesting for this movie.
Yeah.
The
He did
lingering,
Loving, right?
what?
He did Loving.
He did a ghost story.
No, David Lau. No, that's oh my
That's
God.
the guy who did Take
Midnight
Shelter.
Special,
That's right,
Take
that's
Shelter,
right, that's right, that's
Jeff
right.
Nichols. I'm like,
guy who loves
I'm like, I
Michael
can literally.
Quiet Place.
Yeah.
He's doing Quiet Place
Yeah.
spin-off. Yeah. We were talking about that before. Yeah. This guy like
David Lauer did Pete's Dragon, which is
Dragon.
and
really
a ghost
underrated.
story,
A ghost story.
Nice.
and then a bunch of TV.
I think I saw a ghost
Yeah.
story.
I never saw it.
Pete's Dragon is actually
I'm
one
afraid
of
of
the better.
ghosts.
I would say Pete's Dragon is actually one of the better Disney remakes of the last couple of years. It's like really underrated.
Nice.
Very weird that that's like George Miller doing Happy Feet. It's just
Or
like
Robert Rodriguez
Yeah.
doing Spy Kids.
Yeah.
Well, he did that for his kids, right? But
Yeah.
anyway,
Or like R.L. Stein doing Eureka's Castle.
I fucking love Eureka's Castle. That was
That
him.
was R.L. Stein.
What?
Yes.
Eureka's Castle.
Yes. R.L. Stein did a children's show.
I did not know that.
children's show.
crazy.
That's
That was
fucking
R.L. Stein.
sick.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
You're going home and
Wow,
watching
we
that
just dated
tonight.
I gotta
ourselves.
watch
I was like,
Yeah,
as soon
I-
as like Eureka's Castle came out, I'm like, I just dated myself.
Dude, I was watching Nick Jr. like a fiend when I was however old I was, 10 or whatever. Like I was loving that shit. God damn. Anyway,
We all get
bye.
nostalgic. Like, oh,
Yeah. See ya.
Eureka's Castle. Bye.